Kuta. Mercy cho. Don't see. At the mercy na St. John Coins and hotels in hat at don't us laugh for the sea mercy listeners listeners in a by and cater and concert. Hat at it a cockit the go that John then an intel sit a mercy at you ayun harno ya kia no by cocky the loja at Ujana al kisi at Asena kisi to coins it. Hat a yun then ya kisi in Pesuti at the low. Ku at the cockit but the any dead at what at Ujaga like Darcy on get and rate a honey lad in the hat a cameras in a center at cockit and a sea Jano Halagata na set at don't kid that's a thing on in Ghana on Kihano it's a day. Mercy. And that's in it. Hat I don't think I said. At it a cocky go that and John on until see a pathways program who the other law. Hat a mercy when they have been listening rest in don't think as a channel health at the Hatano Kana. Hat at it a conning cocky go then and then is it a cocky and that is the Hana Kana the Lutis as a neck the government of Northwest Territories held to the kids on cut. Had a John coins in to that and about like get coins and sit and about cocky and downly had a law. Ku a year to that opening the Lenny see to that you at Talia the law. Had that to that cocky go there to the K cocky go there, but no is to Hatana can see John coins in that cocky and downly had that. You never there, pa. At it at least go to it a Chinese in hot to the Hanel Canada low to it a cockit and downly say to it a cockit and down go the night is it to it a cockit and downly say Helagatalan now the hat to the Hanel Kahada. Had a Chinese at a packet get coins and you had to that no John. Had at it an opakaki had a look at glass entered at the quiet chancha at Tani Tilo and Natal Kid a cigar. hat dut ayon asi at dut a government a katala now dut ya kiat dut a that in ko that in be ya ki se papa ka kele I halt am hanel kan hello at katal ki ha se hat dut a ka ki ten talin se dut a ten ya kutin hat ut na pa ka kele lo hat that in ya tele dut simultaneously interpreting hulyelo hat dut a hayon la on hayon la ten nate sit dut a nata ki se dut a ka ki da be ya ki da dut a natal ki se dut a hatore la TV ka hat dut think ye hat another se ke mercy ni hat dut a nasit you zil at the kestinese Danawa Brenda Michael Angus Mitchell Bessie Intaluk Suzanne Quicksulik Susan Jenny Vandermeer John James gone hat dut a do ka kitan tanling ha se te sin at nenek dut at na patlek coins in ha hat a ke mercy no listeners in ha hat dut a ka kitan and interpreters pathways program hulia se hat dut a do no nons and na ke gai ke dut a se quick no hala katala na lo dut a ke stanley si ha no pa hat dut at na ko da talni si te pa hala katala talo ja yo se te na khatser leo hat a ke slat at na te lo hat tal ne le jain sin katal na si tu sa kwe hat dut a hayon la as arat and lo ta hayon la tan chil ta la si hat dut at ulai si se ken son la ta se mar si te tiu an ko ye se dut at unonant an se dut a thousand baganonant an dut at be kala ta se papa so hul ga ro ban fa an mercy ha hat dut at na patlek tet is it a mercy listeners dut an no hella katala now dut at na ko de papa so hul ga se ja no hella katala na ha hat dut at na ko da se dut at ke san le lo ayuno pa si khatser lo at izu ku at hat the Commissioner of Northwest Territory sit in Opak listening to the law. Dear Mr. Speaker, hat the Nepal coins that I get the catalog now, sit to that catalog now. To that unknown to that number 1 2026 at 2027 to supplementary appropriation expenditures 2026-2027. hat dut a meu ta juno chantil tie se to te gai ko da hunani ti lat elo ja na patlek coins en katala ta se Minister statement Mr. Premier Mr. Speaker hat dut a 20th Assembly chantil te elo hat dut ha se lat elo te sen san ne ka ya dut a katala hata se hat dut a Canada I hatu la yun henek elo hat dut a sa katala tau te supply chains hat te se san ne ka ya dut a te katala tau at san ne ka ya se o dut a kwa hat ya sa katala tau yon te na katara te lo at katala na le te sen san ne ka ya se hat no no halalat elo ja government title se hat dut a te se at san ne ka ya te na te se at earth hani te na dut a hanin la ya se te yon te ne so sa na te on quantity ne so na te adelo ai hat da nonont on dut at na ko da hetel se papa ni te na ko ken so yo sa kata lai ta and dut a se dut at government kata na se at ni se na te lo ayon te tai te ha adelo at entirely cute at ne so sin haral al te tal ni city hat adelo the community leaders tal ni wa yo Hat atu the federal government city and it's in the handle a hat I want Sakata Latario de Sensanica, you know that's and how they're the rights are known as really and a low a hat that's in detail catalytor. Hat atu the hiring lot if a hell hat alloyed in what's a I knew to it at the something called only city in the hat at a low. Hat atu the you business so I you as a tight day hat uda as synonot are at a low. Hat ura real hat aja desenho marchoni der ku air topic egalata honi der lutes Mackenzie Valley aya ita ku nedo Talson Hydro egalata hasina Charlie asnilo etenit orthi ha hat atut alata na chata ha se ha si to ta hanin la aya si to internet la ketel ya hadelo that's in Catalana ha to airport to energy hat uta hela kata lata hat lo te sensanen ka ya sin kata na ha hat tuit atena kata na si tuit la ketel ti si ti hatan khanet lo te na son seno yo is internet hat eno yo hat tu si tuit sa khavin sin hat papasini en ki hat bek la hal na de look ek ar jain se panata ki to da government behel ya yo tai ti de hat uta janit si ton te gamer si ha hat to the government say to the Kenneth on to the la nether tel ti si to the federal government behel kesu ta kare bek ekalata haiti de lo yung asali hat to the nezon lat elde asina net unde sanali hadelo a car city as a bagar to the sense of Nanek a city to Canada a city that's Nizon Sunut or Zalo to the sense of Nanek like they say to the national defense to the Tennessee they John no Helagata not Charlo a hat a papa Quang a hat out no town to that sort what a young has said a Charlie at a lot when he has sent a lot to the young sita can say. De hat uda lag enonont antane to ayon pa enont ehuli to you ne that's how the la hunlian ne had a lo hat to a hat uda nonont aril and a lo Mr. Speaker John hat ayon la na chahil se an hunt ala de galata an hat to Allah ne that na chata ta la si be galata an kebe kan enont esen hat to the Indian to the something kalte tan lu to hiring like a tan lu to an kalte tan lu to an kwan kan tan lu to federal government no ya unit tira hat Mr. Speaker to a kenazon la na chata la se kenazon hilsin in tenison te chana kwan lat na te lu san na ka ya to a ya unit na pasu hutia de lu to da kwan yun na zon sanalia le to ga 20th legislative assembly ku hatin leda hat epic egalata ha non ta has ne de lo ton ta ton to ga ke non na zana sani tel se to ta kwan zon ka de se good 96 a hanat e kwan te kwan ko de te halin te se sa nan ka ha yun at anat e kwan ko de nun ge ha se ha yun la ke ya da sono na zan ke ti na de lo e hat la kwan se de nai kwan se te son pe ka ta la ta la te lo to da ke ti na zan ti se e ta zan li ha se hat anat e hayon la ke gata la ta se to da no na zen ti hayon la gata la ta le to da legislative assembly yasni se hat to Allah kwan hat se to da kaya yon kwan yon hat you yon halt ado yo rek on hayon la ke anin yo hat da ha se da et zanane ke hat na te car yo hat da kwan papa su huldia lo hat Dëne Sųłıné Yatıé a helo kalte tan nu ya yunte behela de lo hat sensanen ke ya ha hat da indigenous Dëne Sųłıné Yatıé a tan ni city behel da ya ki hat leo hat da government ya hela kala na ha lo ja da kwanson kado da to si hat leo da hanin la ke ya da taten city na zon da kwan is not there in da hanin la tan chilta la se Hata Mr. Speaker to da kwan hatu ne so halakalata sito hayo la kaya itane ne so na teril ande lo hayona pa honi la la te lo to da kuhil pano to da nik or ka it at ya yo to hayo la kaya te yo papa suhulia ano hatu te na hel han na ha chare tsakai papa suhut ha hata to da GNWT hatu la te na helakata la no to da indigenous governments helakala na lo it unka hata to da yon atalia hata to da emergency si to da to papa sunut ali si da yon salio tsakai hat o da non alo to da GNWT da high level in lo to da ansin kwan kun ta sambatan kontrol do yon assistant lielo hata to da fire department sanut kun halakata la nan tantang si harin la kaya si te na halakala nalo i chaha hata to da emergency tsong ka tsana kala ta le to sa tsar ka ku en kan huni di ha an lo ta sa tsar ka pete to da usunun ta to emergency kit zo ye to da yon si sel ye si san lo hata to da na kun kana te tan tan le se to da kun al ka ta na ten se te han la ka ya te na yon te na mar se te tio an to hat o ta ka ta lai ta se hat to the government said to the public safety zone kat center hat the ki hat se hadelo snelo kuye pe ka la ta e da sel di hat lo e ya kidnet nit an la pe ka la ta hada hat Mr. Speaker said to the Kenya zone the na ta na ka ya na so not there in so when now hat o la and not there hat o not there in da to the circuit on other to the online the circuit e pa ka e kana la te si to ka ta la na ko te na te la ke ni di hat lo ta han la ke ya se had to the see to the circuit na chill see the child care hat it hat the lo circuit party see the sense na na ke ya se ai hat to da to papa kwa se to da to pa ni what is this the yung papa sulia to da federal to GNWT to ayo an kono na le milni an lo ai hat to pa ha kuat to that ut sequela katala tau to that sequit is konateu yat is a petseti hatere lo hat ora to that sampa hases and a galatari and at the sense and then a tesit and a sunken hell hat to that telus get a yunta lout atilo ayu patarangelo to that sampa eta la se a sin not dead to that galata and hat at an apasuhulia de lo hat to the nani ten si la ketel to hatana kan ha an lo to the la huni der la nethuni der jara hat Mr. Speaker said that you are telo te sensa nen ka ya kan sunta na la lai tau te narat sarat o atana sunat to herin in na lai talo hat to that ten son sen kwane son help a hela la tau kwane son is not that a hela la talo kwan son ka to Dëne something kalteta ni siutu da kundi te konet I hapatu emergency management so ya yung halakalata hatere lo ha you hatu da lahuni da tong tre kai ka hata to da government to hatu ya kini ase ke ka na hatere lo to da to ya kia se kare hat to the higher like I said the higher like and so not there and you know the thoughts and how they're there hat to the higher like I the not the city the net and near on a little bit out there and tony seal at that scene canal to the mercy net at there onto that old and I unlock at it is it the sense and then Mr. Speaker to that Sanan kaya to that oha onto that la so that it's a tight so to that and a call the hetelo papakata la papa kulusilielo. Nason catalata, Nazona hate how you know that's another there. The Kenazon is cannot tell the law who know the quiet in as is not tell quite a car on her let don't that which are not intelligent sick is it. Had the government say you had to no oral and a lot of that in a son to the child care economical housing or that was a quick new hat is citizens and then had to that to Canada's Arctic future in law government the at we next in that hat tuit ano pauni lalat esi kwatena sinonata anat ele kwatena selia ano tuit at esi ede kana baba suljaret I galata hadalo no ke herdnya de la hat ses ni le hat ule ton tuit singa keso marsini tanata tat ulla hit ni tan si hat uda sunonot ansa yon skaritel si hade atlagata latare athalyale tesen tsanen ke yan zonaite hade mercy Mr. Speaker. Mercy, Mr. Premier. Member statement. Member statement. Yellowknife South. Yellowknife North. Mercy, Mr. Speaker. After that, some by India seated at Mackenzie Hall, with economic security corridor. Queer not Leon. Hat tuit ayun si Leo, hat uli tuit na pauni lalat hade. Kui hosines anel sines hat tuit hans in tuit on nok sit tuit lak katalata si nok in kain punin tilelo. Hat hat jara bet tuit a regulatory katalat na si papanes lat elele kan lahni dilat it sampat itana kaulat in beta. Could I unit in a you see that like Tali could it as the chant but art in a could you attend the pilot near on the low to the car one that to no bathers at 10 say could do no nonsense no nonsense call the millions and 10 just near the car one jalo to that some back and on ya but at a low to it up at 10 can't get some back and on ya. Had to the Canada there. Did upon you never seek quite a new comic egalata, thought to make egalata, you not saw the law, a hut in law, a sick egalata, but honest on the law. Had only talk all right and sip on the car on the law. Catch and don't corner, I let a lot. Had tuit a sick egalata did honest on lat LSC to seti satana yun yakinos and lilat eloton kona I can see you had to that had to that some park ewa yun caslino trezo ganat a desi de senza nanekaya. Cook car a had to chat some back and on to that 10 to 10 net had to some back a canon yaw connect on a red 10 to 10 net a low. Had anoni sino had lot a lot to catch until at it a young pile near a little to 10 net aha. At a little at night la haseo to it at night but or the snail. Had at one say a key nast ella nurse curse one say a key nost in the net at Ilana Yakin etola. Mercy, Mr. Speaker. Had anoni but early had a had at our roof to that all law had loud that all Yakila Bagar Galata on that in your care rules you shalo. Had at I you said Tisa you see but they a little bit in your kinal seal. To that attention to that ura but or that ura attention aha. Mercy Yellowknife North Range Lake. Mercy Mr. Had as in Nisin Johnny tells it don't do it think had at some part Kelly sits and the Catalite on the low. At that I am sick a galata DC I am but highly had a holy I saw to that action to deal yakini and a little to uncle Tetan sit and something her Could the federal government sit some patani le hello you know the guy get a some patanin clear there. Had that to sit a cap of Ayun Suhulia and the federal government some not a letter. Kutong si atong pagkat sa kay si jalelo. Atong panail kia hatulitong hada. A kenet iudo that u tampa lise. Hat etu that tampak katalataw to the 30% economy si to lao revenue so unit anu sa kayong silya akan sinunin no kan tampa leo no kon tampa si kon toda punin through 170 million dollars and at tampa not ano to that emergency funding ha to that tampa kenan na tala si teluse hata katin sambatu tia chai tilo to that ni sanalia si to that sambak etan ya se ku Asia to that yun lagat and si to that kasete se yat elo to that o tampa at telus at samba kesi the kat wancha hata to ayun not east kan chalo hata to that suppliers or contractors so to the something hard our $63 million a year sa tong per isa chalo hanata hata no ne car not a government city 10 million or isa chalo hata at the sense on the neck ay sin no pa honor Huni lalat elo to that government of Canada situ ran sampanos et elo to that snow on siot ha to that night law the batan yal the night petian yalo could the sense on the neck ay to that say taxpayers are you not new to that northern so business so ya yum papa ni la de lo ya chara had that to that altetan new to that federal government ayun sa taitia hat ato da ai tia andalo tatu te sensa nanek e katalata seo to tisin or isat insi ta ka on dia on sat o Mr. Premier Dere hat ato da kenezon katalata natli hana pahuni lacha Mr. Premier hanala member statement inuvak budlet mercy, Mr. Speaker. Had after the Hasiris it, what a new victor na pony lalat is it. The immersion program is currency but the yellow night. Could 33 ton cononants and call the Milton not there to the night is currency but the yellow to the sequatanal country. Had Mr. Speaker said to the teacher Suli Takart in Halakata Lanai that teachers that are in la just at Samparutia had an opahuni la chara and new vacaya to that sequata no canawat SCC. No is cannot harn like ayat and dissipauni la luhanal canlada. Had added at least say to the cabot or Areloi, no only a chara to that utaril now that utanational cana. You know that's another that. Ko joit atana ya ki atana this coin se hanlo kanlo to da keso apan la ya ke no international lo pan la tentait land lo Mr. Speaker hat to now natal kank is that unil in hare lo silye ha to anoke horni lat arile ya ki at a sik galata to at the is kwan see to an cartana ya ki hanlo kana alo had added a federal government said to that the yaki but somebody take so pan la yaki so that in yaki can sampa la lat elo had added a hat only to a pan la yaki that not the huli on that the pan la yaki it is content to the jara it is who papa ni la elo that jara jano hell another ku we a new vacation say it in the ato French then hatan kano to pan la yaki Kutu da Jordan's principal sibits in Sampa had la Lenny City Ayunana Texino but then a client or in third Lenny C. At the hiring like Ayo to Ayun had the Nathan Kano to a Kataka on Yada to that or at the North Carlet, then that's a tiha, that would have been a tiha. Had added that D&D city to the Ayun Sampa Nilo Pagar got lot of the Francophone Shello to the Panlaya Kila Galata say. Mercy, anyway, but like at etoit apaya kina ke that eril at your cur. Mercy, Mr. Speaker. Hat etoit our French emergency but darn kona itlaneha. Hat anot a teacher so but at the on the look to that is kwana hatana kana si hanu like asa inuvik ea. Hat you know that the Nezonato and the Canali Awa Inuvik ea mercy. Satu. Mercy, Mr. Speaker, Jonathan Seke, mercy, and it's not that don't do it, Zinga. for homes, elders deserve to live without fear and our youth need hope for the future. This government has made safer communities a priority, but safety cannot depend on enforcement alone. The RCMP teachers, nurses, and frontline workers are often left responding after the damage has already been done. That is not prevention. That is a reaction. Real prevention means early intervention and effective programs grounded in culture and connection. Mr. Speaker, our people have the knowledge and strength to guide this work, but local leadership needs the resources and flexibility to build solutions that reflect Techo community realities. The GNWT must move beyond one-size-fits-all approaches and work directly with Techo leadership to develop local mental health and healing strategies. When communities are trusted and supported to lead, healing can begin. I will have questions for the Minister of Health and Social Services at the appropriate time. Must Mr. Speaker.
Member from the Dëne Sůłıné. Member State. Member from Great Slate.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Welcome back. Mr. Speaker, one of my favorite sayings, one that I try to live my life by, is be kind because everyone you meet is fighting a hard battle. The unseen struggles that we all deal with weigh heavy on each of us. And by us, I mean every person you meet. With that in mind, one of the things I'm most grateful in my life is that I've been able to access therapeutic supports for my mental health in modalities that work for me. At my lowest, I've had people hold me up, connect me with professionals that can help me add adaptive tools that I needed to get through the battle a bit better. Mr. Speaker, I know my battles are small in scale compared to those that some residents in this territory face every day. I'm privileged to always have had a roof over my head and a place to sleep at night. When I talk to street-involved people, they are, by and large, trying their hardest to be kind in our community because their battles are extremely unique. Mr. Speaker, if we truly want our territory to succeed and if the rising tide of federal investment is going to raise all ships, we must ensure that we are also raising northerners with the least and those who are fighting the hardest battles. Incoming D&D and infrastructure federal investment must be balanced with social services spending. I'm thankful that the Premier spoke to this directly at my constituency meeting last week and his statement today. He heard from my constituents that federal dollars are top of mind towards principal funding and job training initiatives to meet these investments are two hot topics. The Premier noted at the constituency meeting that the federal government does not fully realize the scope of social need in our territory. I'm also grateful that the last week's Council of Leaders communique aligns with what my constituents see here happening in your life too. Mr. Speaker, I've previously spoken to the actions within the government's resource plans on our priority of addressing the effects of trauma. Those actions are framed in Cabinet's mandate that they will, quote, prevent, interrupt, and address the effects of trauma, end quote. Those actions were created well before federal announcements earlier this year. These actions are not meaningless, but do seem very small in the face of our lived reality and with the opportunities we have before us now. Mr. Speaker, we can't have a prosperous territory for residents without having a healthier, healing territory, first and foremost. It's only appropriate, then, that the head of government should advocate tirelessly for the end of UTs and extreme need towards social priorities. I'll have questions from you. Thank you.
Safe homes, healthy communities.
Bless you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, team now will take up Darcy.
Hazela
levels in school, drinking water has left many with unanswered questions. The government's response has focused on precautionary protocols and remediation. These measures address future risks, but they do not address the past. Former students and staff deserve to know what years of exposure could mean for their long-term health. The drinking water results from Chief Jimmy Bruno School and Chief Jimmy Bruno residents show lead levels far above Health Canada guidelines. Multiple fixtures tested at nearly 20 times the guideline. One fixture in the resident building tested at approximately 22 times the guideline after setting overnight and remain at 12 times the guideline during regular daytime use. Mr. Speaker, until 2006, that building housed students from across the Quechua region. Some were young mothers living with their children. House parents and residence manager lived there as well. For many years, this was not short-term exposure, but months and sometimes years of relying on that water every day. By 2006, Chief Jimmy Bruno School was already 35 years old. Today, schools far younger are recording lead exceedances. The possibility that lead was present while this residence building housed students and families cannot be ignored. Mr. Speaker, this issue does not only concern current and future students, it also concerns former students and staff who lived there and trusted that the water they use every day was safe. What is needed now is transparency, not only about the safety of water today, but also about the risks that may have existed for years. Mr. Speaker, I will have a question for the Minister of Health and Social Services. Thank you.
Moultrie. Member statements. Member from Fremont.
Mr. Speaker, somehow it feels like it's been a long time since we were last in the House, even though our last sitting was less than 2 months ago. And I think it may be due to just how much has changed in a short time we've been marching now. As we all know, the federal government recently announced a huge suite of investments in our territory, which completely shifted the narrative. What are we going to do about the circumstances facing our territory, to how are we going to do it? For me, the most important question is what I've already been asking and advocating for since becoming an MLA. How can we maximize benefits of investments and development in the territory for our residents? Mr. Speaker, the territory has been in this position before. 30 years ago, a huge wave of development swept over the territory with the diamond boom. It brought a lot of benefits with it, but as I have repeatedly noted, a lot of the potential benefits flew right over our heads. As we have recently seen, also, difficulty with having such an undiversified economy is that if one commodity exhibits challenges, we can quickly end up in serious trouble. I am fearful that all this time later, these circumstances could repeat themselves again if we do not take action to learn from the past and make changes. We need to ensure contracts for large projects are issued in such a way as to ensure Northern Ontario businesses can directly benefit from opportunities and can plan and grow as necessary to rise to the challenge. We need to strengthen the Heritage Fund Act to ensure future resource revenues are better captured and invested. We need workforce development plans and goals in place to maximize local employment from large projects. In particular, Mr. Speaker, I remain concerned about the pace of transition of Royal College to a Polytechnic University. The Polytechnic continues to stand out as the natural anchor for workforce development planning. We need to work closely with and fund the Royal College to finish the transition Lastly, Mr. Speaker, we need to continue our efforts to diversify our economy.
Mercy, Mr. Speaker. Mercy, Frame Lake. Member Statement, Yellowknife Center. Mercy, Mr. Speaker. Hot a few at the Christaki no panison, Nalano. Good on trade think and say to it at Christaki, Jossy had don't at a lot of ons in the kitchen. Tuyệt lao at it a hon liu tuyệt an la hon konoli tuyệt a ansin kete cute tuyệt a sa tu Mackenzie Delta zeno hayun zen den a pate kiro jare lo tuyệt a kese ku chang achen klasa ku ha ku tuyệt a hat di lo tuyệt a 10 cents per liter ni lo tuyệt a gasoline se pa a ton ta ne ha Had after that sampa then it's sampa then lat ele dagar sinani halelo. Had a year let's see you nagas into that Canada air Manitoba con can Ontario they had elo to that papa testa only lalo to that then say. Had that then a harated elected government city highly had to la. Don't not there to say not the lelo. That that government see to that Utanapakala Nalisi hat elelo. Hatutat Udali had Yaki Halin Lenis in 1997 cookets in Cotton but after that tax suit to the gasoline oil nisi the current kid jase. Kutung Hona Gai cookets in another say. Hat at Allah halal hat hapa gaslin hat at kezu taxu ya yung papa at least halin ladelo but at na pauni la ro chalo to hat at un panel na huli ha anelo hat as kezu ayun trust ni te lat elo asum pa ya haite la chale to hat at least ayun pa hella la anlo hat at sa no te conservation ni tena leon kontu ta keneson la ke nandro huli atwayon tena pahor ni la de to ta ansite kise hat at the government sit tena pasi le hatori le ta ka on ile ha to ta to kaslino treswat ayuna te ke chase ta ka on le hatori le hat at the minister per cardinal there the conference karha mercy Yellowknife Center. Member Statement.
It's been my practice in the past.
Ihanar stinat liha. Hat atut an hindi par sa kwikoda papatri Joseph Williase.
He experienced firsthand as an immigrant wanting to work in Canada.
Hat atesi yo not in ta ten janiyo immigrant lin seja la kanakalo wa Australia at United Kingdom tse. Hat atut ten se in Canada ayat in tenting telo tut alas la chulo jada sekunat kan. Cookets in say a son tano helna he deo de sensananek aya se sekunat kan lo. Hat atut a hayon like ao tut at unazona he ten lene si on nagase de sin chance ending ya se ayon atona in lalo. Hat atun kachana kagai kachana throw this corner throws a than a call that you but any you have seen lo.
Still aware that
Hat only at son to that oath.
now my family and I are working towards becoming permanent residents.
Hat a janite ja Canada kaya na hitere at least he lelo. Hat a 1,000 to it a gatala he naril and this in Canada kaya si sa kwata na kana. Hat a student visa se hat it a hus kunlo at 1,000 janastra se 1,000 Hollywood alo it on it Australia at anata hat uli sinilat at this in Canada kaya than hell neither se. Had only Johnson Sahars in Dolelo at Southern Kayasi, had as its annuit in that town, then in a zone the Helagalai now. To that song, El Hati Halalo, to that speed skating, what is the Helagala knowledge? Had at it Allah say the horror Nilat Elelo, they say. Had I what odds and neither see then see what for some sincere or neither the low. Had to let to the Eda Nank Eda Galanalo. Had to let to the bits if he sat and thought another suit at Thilet because they had a lot and not the had I do at their curlat elo.
Building their skills.
Had I do it and it's nearest and the low any low to the word for Providence and not they say. Had only heard ni let edit some parts on Katha. Good to die you what is that you not need that you take kilo. Kula sits in that to see. Latin it's in that written you see hat you to that what it's knowledge see who are ni let edelo. How you see at to that written and not say at to thing yaw you at one jalo. Had at that can so to sequit at the to the Catalanare, the internet around you had to a little kiss con la settle a hat tight in the law.
Let students gain experience, earn their own money.
Had that to the sequi who let it is contract as a corner consists a kaiser as a corner canuneta at the Naha. Do that Ulata Kono, do that and Sampa Haik new hat it there and sequi on that can load it. Sequit is connect not till see her.
Friendly explanations. Employees might be more willing to hire.
Had added a situation at the city and north iso a hat to log at that it is connected and as on the hat added at least connect not they say to the high school not they say. Had added to it that over Pasu Yada that was a quick is connected and so not the word la on you is connected on a hat there the law.
World skills.
Had added a real world skills who shall low. Mercy to thoughts and but there you had to the 100 corner. Member statement. Returns to oral questions. Mr. Speaker, to the oral question at there 107-1. To member Yelnap Center, member 2426. To the Northern Cost of Living Citizens on the Kayate Kiro that that's Naha. How you want to see the Kia had added a financial relief men say you had with a Nakatala Nalo to the investments or some panel yet had added a July and you had to back a like the Hada. Had added a higher like a iron chart design and Sananek a higher Latano to organizations so to the Pahel yellow. Had at least no now has seen the oral questions gone on there to the brackets 1-20 cost of living. Had to that government see their results in all has seen that.
Returns to oral questions. Minister of Justice.
Minister of Justice. Mr. Speaker, had to return to all questions at the Yelnap Center Carse March 6, 2026. To it our to it at the net and law say to it at JWTC to it a higher like ARC federal government helicopter now to it at least net the say to it at all the net and at Nilye suit at all la seasonal yeha. Had a unique sense to it at the net and la say you see the banner lata had the presity on the low. Go to it as a two ten out to the park on site and see but then hanging louder to the comprehensive land clean agreement KR. Had added the thoughts internet and law said they put cook and Narnika Galata electricity on the lay had to by using all had added the municipal government said Zanaka city Gatala na to bylaws so I don't touch on its own cousin. Had added on needs and young seal yet I unted is at the low to the opposite there and low. To the central government or the community governments aqua you had to say had the letter I you hire lata la say had added that the net and la say kepatia you need inside the net la say nera. Had added the net and the and la nezon let the need I was suddenly had a low. Had added that the net say at opposite the electric at the net in Lenny say. Had added a municipal community affairs in the Asilia on had about is the kidnapping in Holding City the Consumer Acts Nilo. Hat John 20th Legislative Assembly Hockey Ladelo. Hat at a higher night, but Darrell Carlo, to it lat Uda Civic Agalatai Deo. Hat at a municipalities Gayalo to the Patilicia. To the Nick at the net and allow to the internet and la see the Yumpuk or Jaha. Hat at it at Unionets and Hazard to a Untanic Attorney had a low mercy cho. Mercy, Mr. Justice. Oral questions.
Recognition of visitors in the
At that channel, Pahun Katet easy, John coins into it at the Rin Husband Jane Power,
Cynthia Ibach,
Cynthia Ibach, Catherine Walk, Clara Reinhardt, Mercy, John Kwana, James in Nonotel.
recognition visitors in the gallery.
At that chance can no help that easy, Nuvik Bootlick. Mercy, Mr. Speaker. Hat after that, then a Hamming said it are a new Vicks at in the set notes in that in the but then to a new Vic neither low to it at then. At that one that sit and bagala na loy then bullish shits in hat at John or Hong Kong ya see Mercy Litia. Yelnef Center. At Mr. Speaker. Kayina Garson see Mercy listeners in summer student land a hot at doing Johnson's in Natlan the listening office kay hot at John Health at the hot at Mercy listeners in Janoni Yase hot at it Allah Nezonti Sapa hot at it Aka Sarah Clear seat in it it was a note in that a little choice had that seen need or the Sarah Clear is in and a bagel and a cocky Satu. Mercy, Mr. Speaker, City. Miss Jenny Vandermeer McPherson. Welcome to the Assembly. Mercy.
Recognition of visitors in the gallery. Member from the
Member Decho. Mercy, Mr. Speaker, City. After the career path interpreter, see. Setil says Denawal Bonnet Rouge. Denawa had that job with the dollar no hell. The Mary Jane case on to our interpreter Lindsay to the chop on Mercy.
recognition of visitors in the gallery. Recognition of visitors in the gallery. Member from the Nukpat.
Nanakpat. Mercy, Mr. Speaker, seat Susan. Sits in near the Lohat as in near the Jano, Halagala, no answer to it at the car kit and a lane here. Mercy. General Mercy, Susan Nonia. From Lake. Mercy, Mr. Speaker, seat Mr. John Gone. To the interpreters program, and say to it from Lake another day, the Mercy listeners. Mercy from Lake. Mofui. Mercy, Mr. Speaker. John Gone.
He's also doing the interpreter training.
Had their interpreter training in Lindsay Bakaki Hanulkan. Had their Mercy John Gone, Mercy listeners in Kake Dean Liha.
And also, I'd like to thank Jonas Lafferty.
The Jonas Lafferty is the Mero San Barcana can sit the Mercy. Didn't it a Kake and Helene? La concentration compensée à sans compagnie de petits ateliers de questions ateliers Mercy non essentiellement le health ici donc c'est ça n'enquête ne sont des hâteaux de nos grands cadettes et un restaurant là de la catalita acknowledgements oral questions Illness Center.
Fact that Ottawa isn't going to save us. We have to save us from ourselves. And we need to help Northerners with the cost of fuel and cost of living. And Mr. Speaker, noting that the cost of fuel tax rate has been locked into legislation since 1997, is the minister aware of this, and is there anything she can do about the challenge that other folks are rising to, which is giving fuel tax holidays to their residents? Thank you.
Thank you, member from the only center. Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we've been watching this closely. Obviously saw that Canada did institute a fuel tax holiday. Very few, if any, of the other provinces or territories are actioning that. And Mr. Speaker, the reason is, at least from our end, when we did some quick math in terms of what an average gas tank impact would be, under $10, which is certainly does add up. Nonetheless, the impacts on the other side to the revenue that the government would receive is in the order of $15 million. We already pay significant impacts as a result of fuel, and will continue to pay those impacts, and as a result of which are also paying higher subsidies. So, for instance, on territorial power support programs, for example, or seniors' home heating for their fuel costs. And so at this time, Mr. Speaker, with that, trying to figure out that balance, we want to ensure that we have the fiscal capacity to maintain programs and services for residents. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister of Finance. Oral questions. Member from Milne Centre.
Mr. Speaker, I'm not sure where the minister got their $10. I'm not going to say that math is bad. That's the Department of Finance. Their math hopefully is good. But I can tell you that my gas up on my small vehicle went up almost $40. So I'm not sure where they got since the price jump. Mr. Speaker, is there anything the minister can do to move this out of legislation into regulation so we can pivot if that becomes the policy discussion of the day to help meet this challenge? Thank you.
Member from Milne Centre. Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we are not right now considering moving or changing where the gas tax resides. It's in, and what I was speaking to earlier is just the change from if we were to start to remove all of our gas taxes. So, as I say, that change is not being contemplated at this time. Thank you.
Minister of Finance. Final supplementary. Member from Milne Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, frustrated constituents corner me at the gas station and say this government can give millions of dollars away to diamond companies that are closing. Why can't they help me with the direct support? Mr. Speaker, what can the Minister of Finance do to help people who are watching millions of dollars leave the territory when they feel they need something to help them get by? Thank you.
Member from Milne Centre. Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there's a few different issues that seem to be coming out there, but Mr. Speaker, I'll confine this to speaking about what could be done with respect to gas taxes or gas rates. Mr. Speaker, I don't have any control over the Strait of Hormuz. I have no control over the war in Iran, and I am unable to reduce gas prices at this present time. We do control gas taxes, but again, that impact is actually fairly small in comparison to the real impacts that we are all facing and that the government is facing from an increase in rising prices of gas. We are working to ensure that there's an increase in good jobs, more good jobs coming, more opportunities coming so that people can continue to have good paying jobs here in the Northwest Territories to mitigate the costs and the volatility that is existing in the world at this time. Thank you.
Minister of Finance. Oral questions. Member from Rangeley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On a similar topic, the $63 million in unsecured debt that the Burgundy and ACDC owned mining group owes Northern suppliers, contractors, and Indigenous Development Corps is unsecured, meaning no one can collect on it until the rest of the financial restructuring is done. That means Northerners and Northern companies are holding the bag. So how is the Minister of Finance working to support those companies? We've already seen the federal government step in and spend an extraordinary amount of money. So what are we doing to ensure that that $63 million is paid to Northerners as they deserve? Thank you.
Hear, hear.
Rangeley. Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, a CCAA proceeding is a legal proceeding. We are attending at that proceeding, and we are a party there as a GNWT. Certainly would want to ensure that anyone that is a company that is also has the opportunity to attend at those proceedings. But Mr. Speaker, at some point, that legal proceeding I'm somewhat limited to speak to. More broadly, though, Mr. Speaker, there's so much activity happening at this point in time with respect to EC&E's efforts on the workforce development front and and ITI's efforts in terms of supports for businesses. And as well, of course, the question seems to be a little bit difficult in that I'm not quite sure if we want to support the mineral industry or don't want to support the mineral industry, but to try to ensure that there was some stability for the industry, some stability for this company. Certainly the federal government decided to issue a loan. That was on their decision to do so, but it certainly gave a fair bit of time for companies to be managing their affairs, to be getting paid, and to be having a bit more of a runway before we are at the stage we're at now. Thank you.
Minister of Finance, member from Rangeley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, to be clear, I support the mining industry. I think we all should be supporting the mining industry. It's not their fault this happened. It's global market conditions. But what has happened is they owe Northerners a lot of money. So if the legal proceedings are not the avenue to do that, then what avenue does our government have? What tools do we have to support the businesses that are owed this? We've already seen 90 jobs leave Hay River and other parts of the Northwest Territories. We're going to see more if this money's not paid. So what are we going to do? Thank you.
Member from Rangeley, Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this is a fairly large breadth of things that need to happen and that are happening. Everything from starting, Mr. Speaker, with respect to worker training programs that are happening for individuals who have been employed at the mines. Fortunately, because of the planned closure for Diavik, that system was already well developed when Burgundy found itself in CCAA. Those pathways have been promoted widely through ITI and EC&E, and certainly happy to make sure that that information gets out to residents. Beyond that, Mr. Speaker, we're working to ensure that that companies and development corporations and communities are ready for the opportunities that we're now seeing. $11 billion coming in for Department of Defense, 3 projects that have been around forever, all referred into the Major Projects Office. That's out of the 17 across this country, 3 here in the Northwest Territories. And we're going to work with businesses and development corporations to make sure they can take advantage of them and be ready to maximize their opportunities. Thank you.
Mr. Finance, final supplementary. Member for Rangeley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I'm not talking about the Academy workers. I'm talking about the businesses that are owed this money, where the unsecured debt is. So I don't have the same access to the federal government that the minister has. It seems like the answer is going to be go to Ottawa anyway. So will the minister speak to her federal counterparts and tell them to pay this bill? Because someone's got to it at the end of the day. Because if it goes sideways and that money isn't paid out, then we are going to, these northern companies that have done the work, that have employees that need to be paid to put food on the table, they're not getting what they're owed. And someone has to pay that bill. And if it's not this government, then it should be Ottawa. Thank you.
Thank you, member from Rangeley. Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, when the diamond markets have been struggling now for some time since COVID, not rebounding as they were expected to. During the course of probably about a year ago, Mr. Speaker, it would have been a very sudden and extreme shock were Acadie to have gone immediately into bankruptcy. And Mr. Speaker, we had been speaking to Ottawa at that time. Ottawa did step in. They have tried to support a restructuring and provided a significant loan. It is a loan. It's certainly not by any means going to be a bailout. It's a loan that bought a significant amount of time. A number of companies that had contacted us and development corporations have had that time now to re-examine their own arrangements, their own workforce arrangements, their own engagements with the mine. And now the situation, while we are in a CCAA, is not good news. It is a much more orderly proceeding. We're at that proceeding, businesses are at that proceeding, and the federal government is there. And once again, we did speak to and engage with the federal government. They have stepped in to ensure that this could be a sales process, which once again buys a bit more time, allows the process to be more orderly, be more planned, and for all parties, including the businesses, to have an opportunity to see if there's opportunities for them through this process. Thank you.
Thank you, member from our Minister of Finance. Oral questions. Member from Great Slave.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we cannot be fully prepared in accessing opportunities for all residents of the NDLET without helping some residents heal. Can the Premier tell me what counselling options on the land or otherwise does he discuss as needed and urgent with his Indigenous government counterparts at the Council of Leaders and bilateral meetings? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member from Great Slave. Mr. Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm lucky to have a strong team around me, so it's the Minister of Health who has those discussions at the Council of Leaders and the bilateral meetings. That being said, what the member is talking about it's a constant topic of discussion. I've said before that I think trauma is the biggest issue that our territory faces. What's the point of having economic opportunities if people aren't in a place where they can go take advantage of them? So I fully agree with it from that sense. At the Council of Leaders, there is a health and social services working group at the officials level, which works among all of the Indigenous governments who are involved, as well as the government of the Northwest Territories, to look at those different options that would suit Indigenous governments, and that helps inform our advocacy efforts in Ottawa, as well as our own policies. In the last federal budget, there was an announcement of a Northern and Arctic Health Assessment, which the federal government is looking across the north at what services are provided, what can they do to enhance services, reduce the need for medical travel, make sure services are closer to home. And we convened a meeting of the Council of Leaders maybe a couple months ago, maybe now, and we had the federal officials in front of us, and feedback was provided by the Council of Leaders to them. We always discuss the Mental Wellness and Addiction Recovery Fund, which is a very flexible fund that Indigenous governments and communities can access. Jordan's Principle, that's always a topic of discussion. And of course, when, at the Council of Leaders and bilaterals, we do joint federal engagement. So it's not just us going to Ottawa, it's much more powerful when it's us and our partners discussing these things. I'll stop there. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Premier, member from Great Slave.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, with that in mind, then, can the Premier explain if and how he advocates for investment and wellness, investment into wellness and healing when speaking to tables where the major projects and investments from the military are on the table, insofar as for us to have the full benefits for everyone in the territory? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
You member from Great Slave. Mr. Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And yes, I do combine those two the same way that the member is saying, without having a healthy population who can take advantage of opportunities. What's the point of having opportunities? And so when I meet with the Prime Minister, I raise that very issue. I talk about the trauma in the territory, the great potential that we have in the territory, and our need to ensure residents can take advantage of that potential. So this is something we discussed at the Western Premiers Conference as well. So in a lot of my federal engagement, my engagement with other jurisdictions, this is also a topic of discussion, and I make a close connection between those two things, the infrastructure development and the mental wellness. Thank you.
Supplementary, member from Great Slave.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I hope those discussions can turn into actions in short order. Mr. Speaker, last week, the Yukon government and Canada announced up to $100 million in funding to the Yukon Housing Corporation, who will then distribute $93 million to build up 500 new homes. I know the Premier spoke to 360 homes being developed in this assembly. Can he elaborate if the NWT is anticipating to see any matching federal dollar announcements to start to address the continued crucial needs for our housing, especially for those who are underhoused and inadequately housed? Thank you.
We're from Great Slave. Mr. Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So Nunavut has seen a large injection of federal dollars towards social housing. The member just referenced a contribution to the government of Yukon. So that's 2 of the 3 territories, 1 more territory left. And so yes, I fully expect that we're going to see some housing money. And I hope to be standing next to the Minister of Housing when she makes that announcement. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Premier. Oral questions. Member from the Sawtooth.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My follow-up to my statement is to my questions to the Minister of Strategic Infrastructure there. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My first question is the Prohibition Creek Access Road permit being applied for this summer's half project 7-kilometer procurement. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, member from the Sawtooth. Minister responsible for strategic infrastructure, energy, and supply chain.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, yes, we are proceeding to.
Land use permit Mr. Speaker. Arctic infrastructure Energy and supply chain. Member Satu. Merci, Mr. Speaker. Merci. Minister Merci, listen, it's enhanced case. Is permit. DQ18 is A suit that Helagata Nenek at Eloye. At that I see Celia how you did a lot, has said to the Unten on your curly suit that O to the Kulunani all you see her. Mercy, Mr. Speaker, Minister. Had that to the Celia had a Kuton. A city a kidney unloaded at some panel had to the cotton to the bridge Celia. Eight on to the at that I'll cover Lacey, you pick a galatalo to that all the other times, Hasa make a galatao, you use a kaya in Sahulia de don. Eight on to pick a galatahoni de hello. Hot will not say to I want Cecil you don't. At that to that over person on to the topic a galatao yet a CCIO. I told you to it's not all true that about a galataha. Atuli Bernie let aha to the Kenneth Bakalata to lessons not aril in law. Had that with Allah has seats on earth. Energy and supply chain not they at Satu. Mercy, Mr. Speaker, yeha, haniha. To the administrators and Nike Cyprus cargo. Had that with a bridge had seats on earth. Kui Tampanilia C 2026 Destiny Law. Had only to it I'll cover see what from Hopper unit Lord to it government say to it land use planning at least a cur hub but get all that down need the hub 8 hours cur her is cur. Mercy, Mr. Speaker. At it land use permit to it water permit Latin notes and the law. Had to it at least nil to that allow to that with some part the behella laws it there you at least nil to though a big egalata. Had a gone big egalata and the law. Had at it Orange Kelly say you city not tenet air. There can zone siliat on it to cat orange kelly see you deck on it is a you cannot but all to the canal la sampanil you had a lottery laha. A had to the pick a galataloton. Mercy, Mr. Speaker. Had at it I'll cut the sacred you to the land use planning notes own to the water permit notes and I got them. Mercy, Mr. Speaker. Oral questions. Any of public. Mercy, Mr. Speaker. Secret Minister Education, Culture, Employment, Cyprus Car. Arbers Carlo. That did I said, hiring like a city in the zone so quick. It's conatilla at the Netiku is a cool in Papahoni Lalat Elodo. Had a secret and in secret and new vexated I can know and compets at the and the law, Mr. Speaker. Had as it's a constituent sits in constituent still listening hard, that would have to the petiti, that would have petiti listen. Minister of Culture and Employment, Mercy, Mr. Speaker. Has serious eight on art the hunters de law. To the NWT students sit at the sense of nuns are at inside the Department of Education say Kennison it's in at least another ha. Did at the net sequoia teachers so had that do that one at one ali see where you sell the had a low had I don't quite an epic action how say had a little bit a lot ha. Had to the higher Latin chill set the bits at the on the law. Had to the sense of Lanaka to the own Tennessee, so quickly corners on not there. Mercy, Mr. Speaker. Hat atut halasin hasits intent ambagalas na banners near that. Hat atut a minister said kit another say kay cornel to ano pauni la say. The sense ananek ay at least consonkat. Hat atut action say to supplementary appropriation kay alio contract all ye hada. Ayat under a new vacancy on con. Don thoughts in Begalata Ritia to Seliello. Had as a date on Pagalas now say it not added that is at soon Selielis at Tello. Ku hiring like a outlet it a guard the teachers not Tello Sequatanas Kanha. Minister Education, Culture, Employment. Had added as say to that Siliade. Had that don't chant I thought until they see a tempesinial kilo. Had added at least can't say. Tala say, I wanted a school board say that within it up at the garret, alluded a herald in sickness concentrated at it is concentrated a hern chilta, hern latin chilta la say. Had added a program so. Had added a school board say I want to zone school ha on a tight day, the low had a sibet a horny lat at the lay a care no there. Hayons and this corners on la. Mercy, Mr. Speaker. At a mercy, the Senate with a supplementary appropriation in the Ministers of the Tagaro Con had added at Panlaya Kisi that's not the Nahanal Kane at least coins in mercy. Minister, Education, Culture, Employment. Mercy, Mr. Speaker, the Education Act, but the District Education Council done the Hillesing on the letter that then Panlaya Kia Hanno Kanhade, Hanno Kanha, the same island. Had that at a local level, chaos it in this constituency and Colte had that. I'm at work right now. I'll call you back. Had that with a member statement, yeah? Had that with a town combat on that with a tenancy residency, but secret is low. Had obey a key a lot and can't take another corner to the housing unit hell. Queer the Hachara minister. That way it's anyhow. To that department or to the local housing authority helagalana. At to the public housing news and say to that the Kentils in the zone attack only other in the zone St. Mercy, Mackenzie Delta. Mercy, Mr. Speaker, Housing Minister. Housing NWT to territories to don't so thought rights and say. The Zets are Lenek Ayan zone Hanlund air. Hot Uli Hanelsia. Street illegal activities yet a galata sinners on a little higher like air quanta say. Hot at a rental office order a the Behelagalata. Hot at it and a cat then other day you had to look at a sinners on look and not their coins not this yet near there. Had added a honey's on saying yet a C policy at FCC. Had added a policy secret at Utat that minister see yet near it on Qatada. Had added a Ketagaria key hello Tagaria Helakatala now honey the no minister. Mercy, Mr. Speaker. Housing NWT Minister. During that little hot at the Henry log, a to white issue at the end to the you want see to the quantum say to that quantum upon the law. Hot at the Henry log, a say at the nature that the helicatala now to the upon the zone to the quan helicatala now hot it and sit in the same reason on Dilo. Going on it and a coin is not the lake or 90s at or Chalwat a bananilo. Had a lehun cool counter drug dealers who had easy a but out need lalo to us a quisity papani lao. Ay hat ita na hat na terek ana ken tela te ga ken tel ha on the lo. Kui hat ita na kota na ken telo pakata la ha on the le ay tan sibet etira ta on to that una zona the lisits and kata. Mercy, Mr. Speaker. At atut aya kinil ya sit a policy so at say. Hat atut a local to the hiring like ayats into the uncle that only see beheld ya care on the law. Ayayun tan hats at the Hat atut at the pony la seal. Nani tan a perceived sequitan chilo. Hat at the minister say to it a hot eat and a hot not tell papa when not to public housing ARC. To the higher like a chat that and it's in your hat eat and a half. Minister responsible housing and WT to it irila. Ayun pek earth on the low ALC. Hat at it at the at a day on the low. To local housing or to Uncle Tetan, Leonta Sit and Ohio. Hat pang kitchen tilt there and the nil in to another sea, side pang sighting. Member from Frame Lake. Hat at Minister Education, Culture, Employment, Press Card. Hat at Polytechnic news at this class in the zone class Nilo Doda, company the lily. Hat Elliot that illa at college not a DC hat illa job a guy can't share. Mercy, Mr. Speaker, hat board members ning go that ning tell it hat a cotton a behel nail cat a lot at this con never classy some cut. Hat at external reviewers in a cannot in set to that is set to that CQC Alberta that is but all to the tin kick any ow. They can not do that to pick a lot out to our college see you have class a job. Had that Polytechnic school only hello. Had that did Behalagas now to that chairperson Behalagas now the Papaya skill. To the federal government sit it's about record to this concert. Minister Education, Culture, Employment, Frame Lake. Mercy, Mr. Speaker. Hat attitude Minister Siat to the Choppers Kara. It's about Kanakau to the campus what the upgrade to the upgraders at 8 years old and the this cannot there. Had that to that this connect not tell this college that tell her. Frame Lake, Minister Education, Culture, Employment, Mercy, Mr. Speaker. A behelagas not that to the college say, called that only say. Had that in it a high deal with a third party funding Kanaka. Mercy. Not they a key, Frame Lake. Mercy, Mr. Speaker. Ayo had in this concert say gone because a lot in low. Ayo bound and late and daughter. Had that to the program transition so I was a year on low. Had that to Allah not done a child has Nilo John. Minister Education, Culture, Employment. Mercy, Mr. Speaker. Had that to us is a law has centered. Our organization Sampano Ahanos near the la Sampazil and the law. Had at least constantly seal a Samparil and a little bit Agalatao to us than a Hatano Cano. Had to sat up about Sampacana Kai under the Sampacataka one chara.
Both, education and investment that Northerners are looking for and Northerners need because we're going to need full classrooms. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister of Education, Culture, and Employment. Oral questions. Oral questions. A member from the Decho.
Merci, Mr. Speaker. My questions are for the Minister of Health and Social Services. Can the Minister identify what resources are available to support Decho community governments in delivering prevention-focused mental health and addiction supports. Merci, Mr. Speaker.
Minister of Health and Social Services.
Mr. Speaker, the Mental Wellness and Addiction Recovery Fund prioritizes Indigenous governments and supports the delivery of community-based mental wellness and addiction recovery programs that meet the unique needs of respected communities. There's the Community Suicide Prevention Fund that communities can apply on. And I just want to highlight that the Dëne First Nation has a multi-year agreement from 2025 to 2027, and that they are accessing annual funding for mental health and wellness programs for the Dëne First Nations. The Kaagi First Nation has also an application under review under the Community Suicide Prevention Fund for this year, and the Chief Sunrise Education Center and KFN has an a signed agreement under the suicide prevention for their community this year. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Health and Social Services, member from Dëne.
Merci for that. Can the minister explain how the GNWT is improving access to mental health and addiction supports for resident and Dëne communities? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister of Education or Health and Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the department is committed to ensuring people can access a variety of flexible mental health and substance use support based on the unique challenges and needs available supports. The GNWT provides counseling, GNWT mental health counseling. We now provide detox and facility-based, we provide detox, and we also provide facility-based addiction treatments. People who want to access facility-based addiction treatments, they can access the mental health supports within their community. We have psychiatric care, we have land and culturally based healing that we provide funding for to Indigenous governments. And I just want to highlight that many of our Indigenous governments is the fund that we created, we used to have on the land, and we had different pots of funding, and we amalgamated them from recommendations from the Indigenous governments so that they could access those and to be able to have multi-year funding. So when they were creating and hiring staff and program supports in their communities that were structured for their communities, that they could gear that. So I can share that again with the members. There's multiple virtual supports for those who want to access virtual supports, and many other supports that, and I can share the online information as well to the members so they have that in their offices. Thank you.
Minister of Health and Social Services. Final supplementary. Member from the Dëne.
Merci, Mr. Speaker. Will the minister commit to working directly with Dëne community governments and provide information, provide information to the communities on preventative measures for mental health and health healing strategies? Will the minister commit to working directly with Dëne community governments and Indigenous leadership to develop community-led mental health and healing strategies? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member from the Dëne, Minister of Health and Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, yes, the Department of Health and Social Services, and the authorities, and we have the Dëne Health Authority. We're very committed to being able to work with Indigenous partners, and I know that we most recently had these conversations at the Council of Leaders, and we do have the Council of Leaders Health Working Group, and we've kind of directed their executives and staff from within the department sit on that executive working group what we're doing right now is we have mapped out what we know that of services for mental health and addictions in the Northwest Territories, but we want to work with their executives to see where they might have, because they have direct funding that are from the feds. So we want to know what's all available in the Northwest Territories right now, because what we need to do is we're all trying to fill areas in different regions. However, we don't know what everybody's doing, and I want to be able, I'm not going to tell Indigenous communities how they need to run mental wellness programs and what's best for their programs, but I want to be able to work with them to establish a strategic plan so we're all working together for residents in Northwest Territories. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
To Minister of Health and Social Services. Oral questions. Oral questions. Member from Yellowknife North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So I have questions for the Minister of Environment and Climate Change in follow-up to my statement today. So the 2025 environmental audit provided a number of recommendations on how to improve cumulative impact monitoring and management. I appreciate that it is the Land and Water Boards in most cases and not the GNWT that is tasked with ultimately approving or denying projects, but the boards can only make good decisions if they're provided with clear input based on science and TK, and there are clear wildlife management and land use plans, all of which the GNWT has a critical role in. So, first question, how is the GNWT acting on environmental audit recommendation 2-4 in particular? So this is to direct more resources from cumulative impact monitoring towards providing the kinds of predictions and scenarios and risk analysis that would support better decision making. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
From Yellowknife North, Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the cumulative impact assessment program is a key part of environmental assessment in the Northwest Territories, and certainly the work that's done in that area is very important and really informs development all across the north, and certainly with all of the economic opportunities that we have certainly sitting in front of us right now. So what the department has done is we have focused on our collaborative effort along with the Mackenzie Valley Land and Water Boards, and focusing our program resources to more information sharing and working together toward developing some tools, and as the discussions go along, hopefully a pilot project that will be able to implement some of that collaborative work. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister of Environment and Climate Change. Member from Yellowknife North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I do look forward to hearing more specific things about those tools as they get developed. I wanted to ask about the cumulative land disturbance framework, and so that is mentioned in the Bathurst Caribou Range Plan in particular, and it's supposed to set limits on human activity. Can the minister clarify, would that mean that, for example, a new all-weather road would be prohibited through a zone that was deemed high risk in this kind of land disturbance framework? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member from Yellowknife North, Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we're currently working on some policy documents that will help to guide, all-weather roads through caribou habitat. So this work is ongoing. Currently, there's no defined route for the Arctic Energy Security Corridor, so very hard to answer specifically until a route is developed. But certainly, the Bathurst and all of the caribou in the Northwest Territories are top of mind, and we are certainly looking at all of the potential impacts and how we can mitigate those along by working with our Indigenous partners all across the north. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister of Environment and Climate Change. Final supplementary. Member from Yellowknife North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So I wonder if the minister can clarify the current status of the strategic regional environmental assessment for the Slave Geological Province that was initiated in early 2023. One of the tools I mentioned in my statement that's in our Mackenzie Valley Resource Management Act. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, so that project was initiated in 2023, as the member has indicated. It never did get off the ground in a meaningful way. So the budget and the resources that were assigned to the project have now been reassigned to individual Indigenous governments to address and work on areas of concern directly related to the Arctic Energy and Security Corridor. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister of Environment and Climate Change. Oral questions. Member from Wolfley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, government always does what they think is best, is in the best interest of the Indigenous. Mr. Speaker, lead in school water is a serious concern. Research indicates no amount of lead is safer for children. Even low-level lead can cause permanent neurological damage. With that in mind, Mr. Speaker, can the minister provide clear information to former students and staff, especially those who lived or work in the residence, about the potential long-term health effects of exposure to elevated lead levels at Chief Jimmy Bruno School? Thank you.
Member from Wolfley, which minister?
Minister of Health and Social
Okay, thank you. Minister of Health and Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I know that when this first came out that there was a lot of information, and I would have to go back to gather that information. I think it was a combination between ECC sharing that information and as they were the lead of this. So what I will do is I'll go back and get that information and share that with the member. I'll also say that parents who have concerns about their children's potential exposure from lead, or any employee that can be concerned with an exposure, that they would need to contact their local health provider and state that, and then they can have a health assessment with that. And based on that health assessment, they may request lead testing, but they do have, employees should consult their employer because they do have occupational health guidelines to follow up. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
From Social Services, member from Wolfley.
Mr. Speaker, what I would like the department to do is contact these people. Will the minister commit to working with the Minister of ECE to identify and directly contact former resident students and staff who may have been affected by this exposure? Thank you.
From Wolfley, Minister of Health and Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this is something that I will have to take back and have a conversation with ECC. As myself, I don't know who works in the schools. I don't know who's in these schools. And as why there was public information that went out over the last few months since the very first lead that was detected. So if public has concerns, if they attend any of these schools that has said that there's exposure and they have concerns, to reach out to, they can reach out to 811 and they can reach out to the health provider within their community. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister of Health and Social Services. Final supplementary, member from Wolfley.
Speaker, GNWT has all the information of all the staff and the students that went to school in the Northwest Territories. They do have all the information. So will the minister consider providing targeted health screening, follow-up, and appropriate supports for former residents and staff who may have been exposed to elevated lead levels for extended period of time? Thank you.
Member from Wolfley, Minister of Health and Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I mean, that's pretty much everybody that's lived in this Northwest Territories their entire life. And I guess, if you're having concerns, and if they're, if you look at the online, and and if you, where like the member said, the highest risk is for young children, and so what we know is that over the course of the life of the way that the Canadian standards are.
Good that Dr. Condola say at the public presentation a lot of the committees and all that online the entire car city and an kilo. Good that kuya that Satan Hanisi at AC Satan not Serlat AC 8 Arcel Diadelo. Good night, Satan Sewat Union Kuya hat only to that tates are at Elo. What I want Elo hat only At a public service announcement na yun tayo nalhat sa ito on at a direct card at a health care health center kayaw. Asyan na ning tedet in 911 tibets akiyo. Akans inet inhadet halyato de lalo. Desensa na kayo halyat is coins. Tut anlan internet anet iun today is at it is a tantum but suddenly ha. Tutti port illness nilo. Hat ulit a public in the button to the free health care here night as here at the Conlaning third illness center. Emergency Mr. Speaker, hat at up Minister Finance First Chorus into that Sampala Galana. Hat at the fuels and Kadoga fuel tax. The sense on Nenekayat and not the Sipa. Hat at it Minister Haile Hatolo. To the at least a little to the gas taxes on Hat at the Yara Unique in there. At acid the Behelesta Hatot Ilay Behel Sister. June go July call a cotton sell the other Nessa. The sense on Nenekayat and a Becatar till let line attorney ha. Had added the fuel tax on Mr. Finance. Mercy, Mr. Speaker, you have seen a cotton. You but let's eat that had to let it out as a did a fuel tax I say, but who need lot to what it la. Had to let the sense on an chaos say, Gosling cotton, some bats and called Teo had that last but I and a little to that case. Go to that diesel gas or a cat but out and the other. To that energy gay to that night content Sana cool they had Sana killer. I that the provincial territorial a had to like a got the line now started to that with the current kidney see her. Mercy, Mr. Speaker. To the Silnaski say, ya yon Tennessee and near that. I told it Tennessee created I got the land now, to that Testikida, to the emergency amendments and all that. Had that to the rebates all that to let it the night some pattern at all the other ness on the core consent. Had that to that all the say, the minister highly had to low. Highly had to low minister in your car. Minister of Finance. Mr. Hassan low to the no powning la lot as it the gas tax to earn Casey at $2 a liter location. Go to the field, casually the kilo. Go to John Charles and then I like this. I was take care down there. Had only sat after that with some parts, says WTD some parts here on low. Had that to that little it's a tail of season. It wasn't in its city hall and go to the corner yet it is see, but some parts on controlled and nicking concert. I had to that when it didn't then say you had to make a lot of time on the load to Allah who knew. Yes, that or you internet it that low to a lot on Kado to that tax it got only or so. I that it unlike some parts and not in city non until chulo. Mercy, Mr. Speaker. Minister of Finance, Yatyé Illness Center. Mercy, Mr. Speaker, city sets any hat only in the Nesut at some papa passat a silla use Kalalat as a Hatulita Goren, what's needed to take only papa sat el Nesunats at Telo. Head doesn't to Nakatar cut into had your Fort Province and I your road to answer upon the zone sits at Tilo. Kutu tak Fort Haile Hatoilet there, Nunit Ichano, it's a government see Haile Hatoilet. Ayuno Tseti Hatun Tsinka Mercy. Yelnaf Center, Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, seated legislative assembly to elected leaders, seated affordability, see, Gustin the Dekia Jalo. Kanal to business to hiring like AR government so I don't know Pahoni Lala JWTC in Rabatan Hall Nettle programs so services within its Etia to the emergency program so at is on got. Good to see the Gaslin the Tekiro Joe. But I don't know Pahoni Lala, the business of a Pahoni La hiring lot and a Pahoni La Hayons and then a Pahoni Lala. Had after that, say that Kenneth on bananas in Terror on the low hat after that, within its listen to the assistant and a bacata got only her. Had at to see back a catalyta, reach out a little. I want to see how new lot at Mr. Speaker. Had after that, the zone there a year at Unazon see Senalia. Dëne Süüłıné Yatıé, Dëne Süüłıné Yatıé, and let it a sick a catalog not say Chinese. Dëne Süüłıné Yatıé. Mercy, Mr. Speaker, has seen low. Had at it at $63 million a year, had it as northern business a year, see to the 100 at some part non loss, but I know about it low. To take up NWT business, say, I see a lot low. Had at some part at Unos at Elisi had Ella Jalo. Had at the Cotton Celia Mercy, Range Lake, ITI, Minister. Mercy, Mr. Speaker. At the Prosper NWT, but as care on to the business case, some coins and Q con to Zunk to that some part and I live at Agatala, the sense of Nagayaha. Had that to the outreach business communities there.
Businesses to apply, so I'll ask again the Minister direct Prosper NWT to announce those loans are available, to provide those loans, to make the cash available to those communities, because if we don't, I fear we will have more job losses in our communities, and not just here in Yellowknife, but across the territory, and every job loss in a regional center or small community is worth 10 or more in the capital. So we need to stop this before it gets worse. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, member from Range Lake. Minister Yatıé.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would want to ensure that the supports we're providing to business is responsive to what businesses are looking for. So certainly, like I said to the member, I would definitely want to follow up with Prosper to find out if they have had outreach from the business community. And then part of the work that we're doing right now is actually talking to the business.
That business chaos, it a hiring lot of loss, but a tile kid, a little bullish change hands at the had I kept our car secret at Uno Lassie Beck a light a retalo. Cool concept in its 80 in it, it's 80 loaded up business here. The loss it. On Catalan City at $1.5 million per barrel unloaded the federal government portrait, but city had it on the net law that to top of the garbage in the sea, have business scale. Member Range Lake, not the key. A cabinet state you never bonus air. Law net law sound air. Had only to the Organaski say. Had after you then the data then I saw you have yours carried a lot. Had that it on business then it's a sign killing is you. Glad would I had like a na a year's caressing. Minister ITI. Mr. Speaker, did up a helganas to the business community in say. At that don't have said let a sick a galita on capin panita no. Had I chatlat or a nani telutat or lile suited at telusa la galata that or kulua sell quan what a you are said a lot or a Tampa Hill said a lot to that. But had an a car seat to that JWT, but it not any law. At that with the guards, had no unload to that but it at least you to it. You never part to that or got a lot now say it a unit here. Oral questions. And you have put it.
Speaker, following up on my line of questioning for the Minister of Education, Culture and Employment around education in Nuvik, I mentioned in my
Bruce Carlo. 40 million kua 41 to the francophone sampa to the banlay kitten han kan sit is coins it. Had a that sampa had lare as soon as but aunt snin lare is the banlay kiatal a year had lion. Minister EC. Mr. Speaker, I sit on at least a cafe chot elected that is consampa in say $1.8 million to the IU, this concept at the Hanet at some passes and some Nenekaya had with Banlaya Cat and Hatano can say a Banlaya Key and Tedilla. I want that Utanaya Key Hanel can see a church at there. Minister of Culture and Employment, Minister Inuit Public. Benners need to let Ella Jacinto. Had added the minister to that we got to the local education authorities sit oral and sit and it's any lot illa. Had added the board egalana under to the minister sit and like egalan hat and an internet zone sent to that at least a law say to that is at least con lagalata. A behelgan nail kinatlia and you would like Minister Education, Culture, Employment, Mercy, Mr. Speaker. Academic Egalata. Had that a case I but I open a dear child with our Tenaponi Lalat as it's to this constant cut. How you cannot say got the sense and then a had to literate that oral in say. See not clean I want and a passy says Cleha on the little egg isn't the desert Carlo Giants. Had to let the sense on the neck I say at the city I unit then a higher bang higher lot on Paponi Lalat as it in the high deal on your kidney. Are you there to education accidentally? Hello. Not the key. And you will put like mercy, ha. Benners near that to that we are here, say, had at it, minister had the law. Had at no particular child still ill, I beg a gata like ha. How you want saga like that unto that to this corn lagalata say. Had epic a galatan as soon I had a minister had their toilet lore, but I announced ha. A to la had say. You're there, listening in her. And you will put like Minister Education, Culture, Employment, Mercy. Mr. Speaker, I added that social legislation to that is night at Anakanat in the ear. Do that the National her I'll take on and see the Hello JNWT can't letter that is a lawsuit. I added on Pahela Gatalite listen that it is coin is it at the law. Uncle Teton is you. I added that is not a share say to the legislation a share say. Had added as standing committee sitting in the NSA on the low mercy. Oral question from Lake. Mercy, Mr. Speaker. Truth Aris Kar say to the Minister ITI Press Kara. Minister Hat Dilo to the Assistant Deputy Minister say to that Ugalan Naha. That Ulan Laha say to that workforce Kayahade from Lake. Minister ITI.
Thank you very much,
Mercy, Mr. Speaker.
I would love to be able to, hire and pick deputy ministers.
That deputy minister see any that deputy minister nurse is a see the cost care to the hasle to low hat to hasle on the hat after that oh the nurse is see notes and halin low. Had only to the economic development helicopter like that say John. To it a like that say to it at would la golden nil on say a talk I could get in that law on the low to it at northerners I want an investment strategy so I want to like that. The KPIs or metric system policy there show. I want to on a zonat el sayus na Julio. Had at our workforce it at the Gora Delo a see had that at un Sambak helagatalata to the jet and 30 lo yat is lana chalat at a low, but at some part here. Minister ITI. Mercy, Mr. Speaker. Quoted at Department ITI to that uras basna at one line law. To it Allah kodo that urat and a hasniha. Minister ITI. At the Kenneth Beck to the business communities down in city, but it ain't on the law. Industry, tourism, in the clean law. The is quantity then Hatanal Kana on law. Then Hanal Kan day training city capital or nether at the log at Delta. Had at the sense of Nanaka, and had to in a member range lakes in hot day low. Do that business support to that somebody behela law on it, then Hanal Kana on log at Delta. Kui haliare to that the sense of Kenizon than a Catalan not at mercy, Hayum than a behel nother ha.
Member from Frame Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, how is the department engaging with major projects and adjusting policy, legislation, or requirements for contracting to ensure our northern businesses will benefit from the wave of development that's coming? Thank you.
From Frame Lake, Minister Vaitier.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in short, the person who fills this role is a very welcoming person, easy to talk to, easy to work with, great relationships across the board within the government and also externally. And so we get to know what is needed, Mr. Speaker, by having these conversations and forming a plan and forming a strategy and making sure that that strategy is actionable and that we're adhering to it. This assembly, the MLAs have brought forward to me examples of very effective pieces of strategies from the past, and so definitely learning from lessons learned from the past and also successes of the past to make sure that we're moving forward collaboratively and that we are working with Northerners to get there. There's been a lot of conversation that's already occurred, and not just from the departments that I am responsible for, but also in collaboration with my fellow colleagues that sit over at this table, because we know that getting prepared is going to require every single minister over here, from housing to health to infrastructure. It's going to be all hands on deck and everybody working in the same direction. Thank you.
Member from Minister Vaitier. Oral questions, Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Pursuant to Rule 7.27, I have received follow-up information for the following oral questions from the first session of the 20th Legislative Assembly. Oral question 924, 929, 935, 969, 971, 972. Oral question 1003, 1012, 1015, 1020, 1093. Oral question 1109, 1110. Oral question 1115, 116, 1119, 1138, 1150, 1155, 1158, 1165, 1166, 1168, and 1192. These follow-ups will be printed in full in today's Hansard. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Oral questions, written questions. Colleagues, recognizing the time and we need to give our translator a break, we'll have a quick break. Thank you. And there's reception in the Great Hall. Returns to written questions. Returns to written questions. Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a return to written question 32-20(1) asked by the member for Range Lake on February 24th, 2026 regarding medical travel costs, budget pressures, and travel volumes. Mr. Speaker, I also have a return to written question 33-20(1) asked by the member for Range Lake on February 24th, 2026 regarding medical travel delays and coordination. Mr. Speaker, I have a return to written question 34-20(1) asked by the member for Yellowknife Centre on February 24th, 2026 regarding medical travel escort policies, eligibility, and appeals. Mr. Speaker, I have a return to written question 35-20(1) asked by the member for Yellowknife Centre on March 6, 2026 regarding the cost of living. Mr. Speaker, I have a return to written question 36-20(1) asked by the member for Yellowknife Centre on March 6, 2026 regarding the senior envoy. And Mr. Speaker, I have a return to written question 37-20(1) asked by the member for Yellowknife Centre on March 6, 2026 regarding the Mackenzie Valley fiber optic line. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Returns to written questions. Returns to written questions. Replies to Commissioner's address. Replies to Commissioner's address. Petitions. Petitions. Reports on committee on the review of bills. Reports on committee on the review of bills. Reports on standing and special committees. Member from Range Lake.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Your Standing Committee on Public Accounts is pleased to provide its report on the review of the 2024-25 Public Accounts Number 2, Community Government Infrastructure Funding Arrangements, and commends it to the House. Following its first report on the 2024-25 Public Accounts, the Standing Committee on Public Accounts Committee has had additional questions and invited the Department of Municipal and Community Affairs, MACA, to provide a public technical briefing on community government infrastructure funding and support on April 27, 2026. MACA manages a $282 million community infrastructure funding portfolio that combines annual funding streams with long-term federal programs to support projects across all NWT communities. The committee examined whether funding structures and supports ensure equitable access, value for money, timely delivery, and transparent reporting. MACA has introduced training and a new asset management system to support capital planning, but low uptake suggests gaps in training, follow-up, and ongoing support, particularly in communities facing staff turnover and limited local capacity. Committee emphasized that effective delivery depends on accessible, relationship-based training and concluded that a standardized regional approach with consistent in-community support is needed and makes the following two recommendations to the Government of the Northwest Territories. Recommendation 1, the committee recommends that the Government of the Northwest Territories implement a circuit-style training and support program that delivers regular on-site expertise to communities, supports local staff in their responsibilities, and builds long-term institutional capacity, including a train-the-trainer component to ensure knowledge is retained locally despite staff turnover. Recommendation 2, the committee recommends that the Government of the Northwest Territories increase community participation in the asset management system through ongoing training and a staged rollout approach with communities that opt in beginning participation within the life of the 20th Legislative Assembly. MACA identified that project delays are often caused by factors outside its control, including shifting community priorities, contractor shortages, and logistical challenges. Despite this, committee found that persistent capacity gaps within community governments and uneven access to departmental support contribute to delays and concluded that stronger regionally based support is essential to improve project delivery. As such, committee recommends recommendation number 3. The committee recommends that the Government of the Northwest Territories fill regional capital planning and infrastructure support positions with qualified individuals based in the regions they serve, in order to ensure consistent support for community governments and to address long-standing regional vacancies. Committee's report highlights prior recommendations to strengthen community capacity through dedicated funding and technical.
Hiring like AI to that to bits at the list to that some parts on other some parts on other to that to government and so on. Tagata knowledge. At that to that Ogata Lata sit to that committee see hat loot to that government and a hellas near after that oot and a hella catalana say to you see out near Kennison like it's it here. Hat after they are key about panning all committed to the government of Northwest Territory in Ryan Ha'ani to that emergent artificial intelligence in her hiring like AI to that Ukwan sell that rules to training or a safeguard to a hatiha. Hat after the Office of Chief Information Officer but ultra that Hat a committee see to the America see a yes Kenazon see le on to the federal infrastructure programs Helagalana see to that some park are through that upets see hat it and thoughts and law lawat iha to that capital estimate see papa. Hat after the high canal to a hat to the big egalana thought a lo hat after the committee neither not to that unazon say yat or yapayakini on the law. Hat after the UNC Hati has now to contribute that Utsampanilio to that UGNWT program Salagalana how a yains a Kaibapasarin hat after the committee honey the not Eloy hat to the big egalata. Go to the transfer payments so a hat is each a GNWT with a program sunk us. Hat after the Maka chaos near on the load to that somebody that Upaka the seal chaos near on. Hat after the Kenazoni then say ye hat udat and it's it the law. Hat after the committee said to the government said to that some recommendation number 5 but got on we hat with an hella catalana. Hat after the Kenazon Sampa has knew that upek that Ogatalata say. Hat after the policies but lagaro to at least lagaro galata say bagarat elo. Hat after that Utsampa had illustrated audit at Ansampa Helagata Nasi Bureau Office at the chaos near Adelo. At it and thought and make a gatalator that Utsampa and it's it elo the Bagargalata hat the Adelo hat after that government after that committee say chaos nilo to that government say be law elo chaos near. Hat after the recommendation cause is non at non say to I keep it at on sick Mr. Speaker, the NAC puts its entire new hat after the community report 14-20 brackets 1 is the committee on public accounts report on review of 24-25 public accounts number 2 community government infrastructure funding is deemed and kinatlilu. Ekar ayo anos nalano inland then seo Fiki da leseo da emotional Range Lake. Had that the honorable member Nonak put say to that community standing public 2024 public accounts number 2 community government infrastructure funding and arrangements. ADC mercy Mr. Speaker. To the motion. I bet it up. And this will cart any then say. England then say. And clicky that say the motion on the Range Lake. Mercy, Mr. President. The Nanak put say to the rule 9.5 brackets 1 brackets A the government of Northwest Territory comprehensive response at isn't to the report say to the Ayunakin ya say to the sono not and no nonsense see mercy Mr. Speaker. At that motion in a car the Annie then sale inland then sale the Tiki the Leseo or the motion on it. Reports on standing and special committees. Tabling documents, Mr. Premier. Mr. Speaker, at least on this to the say the additional information oral question 10 that cost of living upon sense 115-20 brackets 1 land and resources management. Mercy, Mr. Speaker. Minister Infrastructure. Mercy, Mr. Speaker. Additional information to all questions on 116 brackets 1, 20 brackets 1. Mercy, Mr. Speaker. Minister Infrastructure, tabling documents, health and social services. Mr. Speaker, listening to the additional written question 32, 20 brackets 1, medical travel costs, budget pressure. Additional information -20 brackets 1 medical travel delays. Written question 34-20 brackets 1 medical travel escort policy eligibility appeal. How to follow up the oral questions on brackets 10-12-1 brackets 1. Mercy, Mr. Speaker. Notice of motion. Motion. Illness Center. Mercy, Mr. Speaker, had a motion is to the Northwest Territory say to it at all. When they allow now, they're low, there's a child, and I say. The criminals or gangs or yet is but are during the zone and not the law when the church or not at the law. Had a horror lot a little during the 90s, a lot is it as it was and the law. Had at their cap out there on to the government sit up a lot of law. Had at the hiring like ARC to it, then always sit there, you pony laws on the neck, I not at this say. In Gonsalia on the loaded on that nature and the Nazi tenet and hell on the sense on the neck, I on hiring Latin chilta la city, but it there. The range lays its entire noted on Legislative Assembly seat to Government of Northwest Territory seat to the crime reduction seat as a Nagalata. Had I upon seat to it at then it's in your list. I pas who low to it and call it a Helakata and as one to the program say you had HR. Then it's a new Tenayaki, you Helakata low to the crime that only her. Had that the government of Northwest Territory sit and the Helakata now to sit and only see to the higher like Ayata sit and cannot tell you the sense on any Ayan say. I say to that like only had to that or a sinners on the cannot at this it's on cut. Had that the federal government say had at there all. Had that the hiring like Ayat at Utana so and now in zone sat alone at there. Had a letter it on Patarin loud it on her honey loud not this it at how had a sat or to addiction treatment options so had a hill but at the hello had it then go hiring like a there I can't say had a helagata in that it and it's on its own other what belagata then like hiring la high la tolelo had at it private security companies say you had it license but all you had it and helicopter and all the other ones want to have to count but all you want to see had the low had it at then the zone not there how public in the zone then I own the zone sat alone not there how result and the hiring like the hiring like and Charles you had it the public safety where you had to see like a lot of in the zone low. Tuit asat o punin traliaren eso a hansen kata sitten surga konya si as new hat electric hat ita security nerd is a coin hat e patire tin eso de lo te sensa nene ka ya hal yaren but a tuit at uten a pauni la si ayun ta ka on ne harelo hat tuit a kai kanel tunan et io ya to helakala tare ne so de te sensa nene ka ya pa a Pantan City, the government of Northwest Territory City in Palada had attribute up. You keep it on say no nonsense, no nonsense, CC low up at her. Emotion, Yelnam Center. Mercy, Mr. Speaker, had attribute a motion, say keep it or on that elo. Hat tuit ana pauni la se tlat ura tuit na betsitia tuit ana zona telesu papauni lawat ise. Hat rampe health seldie au tuit a governance intent tuit a to hiring lag ayat iha anlo. Ku thoughts and tuit ana zona nats atesi kartan harati lo. Tlat ura katal no tlat ura asi katalai tai watla. Kuto tracing a Kenya zone big egalata hat a halelo. Ku hanyu lak a to it and a quadelo. Tlahatanil jurat or hanyu lak a night out kintataril or hat a halelo nos can't e honadelo. Kui se to a hat utana and salut alot or alot is who caught a bananesi but up upon it la tora yuns and not at the cut on your return on that. Then I can't harat there. Could it on upon it la se hot and nail the hot and the lions at I there on hot at the government sitting it in what's in there. Hat sat o a tuit a hayuna zon te nate rin in si e hat utat sa nakalaita ang lo. At nani tanuli at elo sital tel patero but eti ang relo e chasin ha. Ko tuit at na tarin la kwain sin se e hat wa se yung hat sa tarin yasa kono a se kanateo e apatarin lalo. Kuit ikintelet e ason at ugat at ugatala nat at una zona tel site hanat unte batanar kino e bet ha bet eti ha analo hanel kanoa de ha kutuan te unisin that unat atesi hat erile don etunat ete chalo hat at erene zonte nat lilat esi hat ele chalo do go to the health and social services then it's any the guard internet any lo e chuat erelo hayo siat na pahuni la no there but at na pahuni la lo ko concentrate that na koda za chel koza kone yane nezo is none then na panar nezo not etila nezo ha and the sitent no certain than that they quite dilo is kind of no certain than that it the guard but etilo Kuyi at elo hat at the zona de la cha. Hat at it our motion sit to the your government, sit to federal government to at the nets annual and the a hat to our motion il to the law. To that tar hill see ha. To at the zona del sat elo not there a hat our motion il to the chanto giants. Had I cut in a big egalata and so had I had need the night emotional to Koi situate and a quarter set it at Utan a quarter not there when you sit out and not there what a garden yard a yacht a hot hotel non hello. Couldn't see no cannot air Celia or Rita. Ku ayulat na ayulat pets ayulat na tinindano pasil le ha andela no ni tapets itia ang hata na so tana natte hata hangin lag aya kui se tu ta kuluk e te tana tana teo tu la tapet ino sital te lo at papau ni la lo hat ane zona te le lo. Ku tun liat elo tu tana nesken o lion konda lak eno sarnin zanda nesken te papak napak ani do tilo te kerat i hun lin chole lo. E yu chuat elo tana lak etet e atolat elo ton. Ku tenech ane se presetiha ande lo tenech ane kayat eteli ho ara.
Of embracing it, that we will all gain greater strength within ourselves, including understanding. Because we know when children go astray, and there are challenges, but we must not let them go. We also need to be clear-eyed about enforcement. Let us not be fooled. That is still a role. We need community policing where the officer isn't a stranger, but they are our neighbor. We must make them part of the community. And yes, even Ottawa has a role. Our government has a role to speak truth to power. Have our government make sure that we articulate that the bail system must reflect the realities of small town life. In a community of 500, a no-contact order is a hollow promise. It just doesn't work. Even in Yellowknife, a no-contact order, a city of 20,000 people is challenging. Safety must be a priority. We cannot continue to put people at risk just to keep the paperwork moving along. And for those struggling with the grips of addiction, the wait is over. We must do something. That's got to be the message. We cannot keep sending our people south to heal in a world they don't recognize, a world they may not want to be in, one they don't feel safe or familiar in. We need an in-territory treatment center and facilities. We need a recovery aftercare program that happens to be either on the land, in their community, but around their family and part of the community in a meaningful way. Now let us be real. People will fail. And the lessons of stumbling and sometimes falling may be frustrating. But the lessons to be learned there is to be relentless and not give up. Even the witnesses, families, and friends to these challenges, we must not give up. So we have to recognize these lessons, that they will be challenging, and we must be resilient in ourselves to help support them gain the strength so they can stand on their own. And let us never forget, healing is not just a medical process. Healing is a journey, and you cannot do it alone. Even more reason, Mr. Speaker, why I say we need an in-territory process that digs deep and connects even deeper. Finally, the strategy will not be a document that gathers dust. That's how I envision it, Mr. Speaker. I would like to see it costed, time-bound, and measured, because the people of the Northwest Territories do not need rhetoric. They need results. They need to see them, but they also need to feel them. They need to know that their tax dollars are working hard as they do. So as I work hard, you work hard, our community works hard, we know we're investing properly into a system that supports our people. We must continue to maintain that critical humanity. That's what we do here. We have to support people, because I question why we're here if we're not. That is an important role. These challenges we face are not easy, but we must do them because they're hard, and someone must rise to the challenge. We must not be afraid to rise to that challenge, and at times it will feel impossible, Mr. Speaker. But I'm reminded of the words of those who came before us, those who built this territory out of hope and hard work. They didn't shrink from the challenges of their time, and I say, let us not shrink to the challenges of ours. Let us choose hope over fear. Let us choose action over apathy. Let us pass this motion and begin the work of building a new North, a stronger North, a healthier North, a North that we can all feel proud that it's our home. Mr. Speaker, at the time I'll be requesting a recorded vote, so I don't forget. Thank you.
Thank you, member from Yellowknife Centre. To the motion, member from Range Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'm pleased to stand in support of this motion as a seconder. And I want to commend the mover for crafting a very comprehensive motion for consideration that is detailed and it kind of hits every point that I think we've heard from the community on what we need to do to address these public safety concerns. And I think unfortunately, far too often, this issue of crime and public safety becomes a binary choice. You're either for the cops, or you're against the cops, or you understand root causes, or you only care about surface causes. And I think there's a poverty related to that, because it's of course more complicated than that. And this motion addresses that. We can't be successful unless we address the shortfalls in housing, the shortfalls in addictions treatment, the shortfalls in mental health support, and support for intergenerational trauma, and the toxic legacy of residential schools, the 60s scoop, and all the other injustices that have been committed against Indigenous people in the Northwest Territories. But likewise, we can't be successful at combating southern-based drug gangs that represent 40% of all drug crimes that the RCMP charged and convicted last year. Those are the most recent stats. We can't be successful in that with social programs. A social program is not going to make, the RCMP, and for context, when I was a kid here, I couldn't even conceptualize someone with a violent crime committed with a handgun, or someone even having a handgun in the community. That was something that happened down south. And even the superintendent of the RCMP at our town hall 2 days ago, the member for Yellowknife Centre and I, he talked about when he started as a police officer up here, he was surprised to see one handgun. If one emerged once a year, you might find a handgun. Now, the RCMP are confiscating between 30 to 40 handguns every year. A social program isn't going to take guns off the street. We need police for that. But we cannot use the police to solve our social programs. It doesn't work that way. And the people who are saying that are the RCMP. And this Assembly has committed a lot of resources towards supporting the work of policing. We have 3 new, very important pieces of legislation that are going to make a difference. We have invested millions of dollars in new policing tools that are making a difference. That's why we see bricks of cocaine confiscated at the border in Hay River, or in Inuvik, or in Yellowknife. And they're seizing the handguns, they're getting the guns off the street. And we're keeping our officers safe while we're doing it with the new resources they need. And the superintendent also said that years ago, he couldn't imagine that kind of support coming from the territorial government. And he was very relieved that this Assembly cares about the safety of officers and the safety of communities. But where we are falling short is on the pernicious issue of addictions in our communities. And that is what we're hearing. Every time the member for Yellowknife Centre and I have these town halls, that is the #1 issue that comes up. It is the drug crime, the drug gangs, the addictions. And outside of Yellowknife, we hear it from our colleagues from smaller communities that it is the drugs that are killing people in their communities, and it is the drugs that are bringing crime into the communities. And unfortunately, drug problems exist because there is a demand for those substances, because people are hurting. And it's true, a recovery journey is not an easy thing to do. It requires comprehensive supports. But if we start to invest in a strategy that addresses that, from the root causes all the way to the symptoms, then we can start to see progress. And right now, we're doing a bit more at the top to support those policing resources. But we still have to align our efforts with those underlying conditions. And the comments, people are so frustrated. The answers of why we can't do things aren't satisfying them. We heard from the meeting, fortify, and I've seen it online as well, we need to fortify our border against drugs. There's only one highway. Why can't we shut it down? Territory is going down because of drugs. Taxi drivers are selling crack. Crack is not medicine. Small community people are killing each other, burning houses down. We're killing one another. I lost my child from drugs. What am I going to do bring my daughter back in a body bag. Mr. Speaker, these are, in their own words, comments we hear when we have very emotional town halls where people speak their truth. And those comments, most of those comments come from Indigenous people who are seeing this, living this experience, either as former addicts or people who live close to these addictions and experience them on a direct and personal level. These are not, suburban Yellowknifers who stay far away from downtown and have a lot of personal income, all that kind of stuff. The perception, perhaps, that you get from southern Canada of gated communities, hiring private security companies, and saying, lock people up, send them away forever. That's not what's happening here. Our RCMP G division, it represents a quarter of total community engagement in Canada. So of all the policing engagement with communities in our country, the NWT does a quarter of that work. That's pretty commendable for the police services to be reaching out to the communities they serve and having those dialogues. And again, we heard the commander say to a group of our community, we are not the solution to these problems. We are here when the solutions are, when we need to be, when they reach that crisis point. So if, again, we are to be successful, we've supported these tools, we're seeing the police are making progress on fighting violent drug gangs from the South. But if we're going to address those addictions, then we need solutions for those addictions. We need to talk to young people and make sure they have a meaningful future that they can see themselves in. And the future is scary for a lot of people. The world is changing at a phenomenal rate. And as economic opportunities dry up, the despair leads people to find ways to dull that pain and that despair. And that can lead to a cycle of criminal behavior, of violence, and ultimately can destroy families, destroy communities, and destroy lives. We want that to stop. So I think the member for Yellowknife Centre has crafted something that is important, it is effective, and strikes at all aspects of this continuum. And I hope we can start to have this discussion as more than just that southern perspective of, are you for the police or are you for the criminals? Or are you anti-police? Do you not believe in institutional racism? Those dialogues, you'd be foolish not to recognize those. It's just a different reality here. And I always point this out when I speak to people who are very critical of any kind of support for the police, for more policing resources, that the push for this isn't coming from Yellowknife. The push for this is coming from the representatives of our smallest communities, Indigenous voices who are calling for more resources in their community, who are calling for RCMP police resources that have never been there because they're needed. And that speaks to a problem that those supports we need to give to the foundational issues just aren't working. They need to be redoubled. We need to build more houses. We need to have actual treatment programs here in the north. It's easy to go down and get treatment, but when you come back, it's a lot harder to stay out of the same kind of patterns of behavior that got you into the problem in the first place. This motion addresses that. I know these motions these are non-binding motions, but it speaks for what we could achieve if we actually treated this seriously and built a costed plan to address this. And at this point in this government, this isn't going to be a plan for this assembly, but it could be a plan for the future of the Northwest Territories. It could be a plan that's staged over a decade, to align with all of the work that's going to come, the billions of dollars of investment for the federal government that are also going to bring problems with them if we're not careful. We see that in major developments, like Fort McMurray and the oil sands, how many drugs and illegal drugs came into those environments because people have easy money and great opportunities, and it's easy to get distracted. So we need to make sure that our communities don't become victims of our success and give them the support they need to be successful with this incredible economic opportunity that's coming. So I hope we take this opportunity to build something better, to build something that is holistic across the board, that addresses everything from the need to curb violence at the top to the need to treat addictions and homelessness at the bottom. And by building a plan that addresses the full continuum, we'll start to find ways to actually curb these problems and see real improvements Because no matter what the statistics say, and the police have their own statistics, the government has their own statistics, but how people feel is just as important. And people don't feel like their community is the same community they grew up in. And if we're going to change that feeling, we need to do more and give confidence that our leadership is moving the territory into a safer, healthier place. So I encourage all of my colleagues to support this motion so we can start taking action on the most serious impact, the most serious problems that we're facing, which is, again, this crisis of addictions, this crisis of organized crime, and the damage it does in our communities. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member from Range Lake. To the motion, member from Yellowknife North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I am against crime. It's a bold position to take, I know. I have indeed supported the additional investments that this Assembly has made into the RCMP through the creation of a new territorial crime reduction unit. The problem is that I don't believe it's helping to continue talking in broad, sweeping terms about crime in general without defining the problems we're trying to tackle, with only vague ideas about who the bad guys are or appear to be and how to get them out of here. I think if we're actually going to improve anything, we have to think carefully about the priority problems we're trying to solve. So in this Assembly, we've certainly talked a lot about crime and public safety, but we have dug very little into actual analysis or tried to find evidence, including statistics, as to, for example, what are the rates of particular types of crime? What are the patterns in particular communities?
Tlanti behel nadro did at u assist joke and that's it do tlant ak aldro tlant at sampal tsiait en tlat u dat sampal tsiu tlat u da hasel tlat u dat sampal tinset ela tlant bapau ni lait City do yum it's an haskia and la did emotional chutsi sisapau that haye halin la chalo go to the violent crime see that selia on the sense and kaya go you see to it on a see garat elo the sense and kaya see you nuggets in attention in telo gangsters hat ira janin tela de lo it didn't but I need la ha Hot at it illegal drugs so at it. Janil yellow. Hot which a motion by a hot low. Good addiction treatment there is a curl. A sitch as in the nonnet on what is it with I co has seen look at then 60% say to it on but only say Jonathan John's internet in your not in but only low. Had added on drug traffickers only see your nuggets at a rat and John's internet in the low. Had only notes internet but only low. That would have Basilia Hattery. No, the car notes internet and it there. Henry like ayats internet way you had it not there. Charat Lalia. That would have Silia how. That would have. Could you had it and say where to it as it's a del crunch as and the cousin is keenly. I say, cause now y'all lily. I see cotton a bit at the lit it can jarret in the garbage at the let it out order and now see how to it and out low. H aha. Sat or non Tennessee to the lappets in the hot at it as it open and it at tel nalo. Could you hat in hatel nalet lat or a bit at there? Could hang log ARC hat it Tennessee but I need la roja sit lat or a silly ha higher latin chill talny say. Hat atut atene kode da papahoni lalat elo. Sat o atut atu programs papahal ni dene zonda lo et laza katala na atut a sich alganate aha. Kutut a motion se e bea tutut atene kode da but ahuni last nilo tuta sit na to at least in islo tana tana helikata na gara. Kita garbage et du kon question lise. Dut a honi lasik ulnyare, dut tene kode, a troublemaker sa hulkalo, that inya kiade. Dui wate chinyats and earlier content and new what to handle condenazon. Sisa bao a hat ura yakinazon, electric tene kode, but et the another, that canazon yakinats running ah. Quoted a private security router bylaws so hot it is naturally allo. Quoted a private security industry say did not udalia ha did a crime did a but only last the car only and yet it. Kuyi se hule nani tanuli at o but sich alonai teach a lot e banani se a yula tanaya health out a it nani se kui godo con to the lata but in hat it and a seat no is that out in it out in a pa a seat in a pa nilo. At least sat o at with a bit it there that would attack all your ha. The drug trafficking tsongkat. Ko tut up Dëne Sůłıné Yatıé un sannet out to a sich alganat a desi ta ka all years in there. Cha motion be hat di lelo. Tut a family violence out e bransat di lo. Ko kanten naten tena ka tal ta khel au kon. I hat di lelo hat eletro da has kino tena kana te wat I de pa at nani tena little tal ni si te uli bet te ha arelo at that emotional sin se to that ohuna tini ten se anasana ta betanya kinil ya se that o te se se ti se you se ya anale nai ta ta ka only ha arelo at straight at Unazon and Sidaka all years in the hot all year. Mercy, Mr. Speaker. Motion. Great slave. Mercy, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, could you that Kutut ayakini ya seja da sita no superintendent sit ayakini alo redu kayao hat atut a motion si has serious hat atut to think atut at least ga kat atut at the sitten it's it the sitten not the little garden it's any little again tello at that program so asalo ko to ta sitten ne zon katala naole at that drug trafficking the got one year se at that GWTC to da yo tene ta sitten ta to katala na siwa yo at ta sitten na te se so it's ta haitia alo hanni te na ta el sio hat at o ta sitten ba kan ki se ga e ga ba kan ki da ga tene tsa ga alo hat at GWTC to ta sitten ta to katala na sitten ni pa it's a la ga la na da hat at a sitten katal na sitten ya ki papanil ya le katal na Tuit Dëne Hun Kuch Azin Dëne Helgatala Naut Dëne Helgatala Naut Dëne Qatar Lianet a hiring like Anate Sit Dëne Kanatilo. It's a young that in earth Dëne Nate Sit Tuit a Sit and Sit a young Dëne Helhalnia Anu that Erene Zonia on. Kua kansen ta sitten san lat eleta sitten san katala nali hat elo ta etsanenek aya ku te hat es nilo te ta se kui kode se te ta at nektis klinot och alla te banani se ay yo nas intene yener isat elo Could at the sit and sit with October cocaine trying choose nilo 90 del guys but on a chart low. This is on the neck air. At the sit and sit $200,000 a year to the sit and Trangatala Hanet at some panilla nilo. Had added the NWT government said in it, it's uncultured, that was an Nenegata Sitan Catalana say. Had added Atlanta 30%, 70% in chains, uncultured 30% clients, uncultured Atlanta, Sampanilia 2026, 2027, Sampanilia, that's it, and Hatanel Kana. Had added the hiring log, Ayat, and at the Helagata now. At 26%, that's it, and the Helagala now, Nilo nationwide, and Nilo Satinya Kia. Could you see 2024, 2025, I see at Dumpert in Lila. Go to the alcohol, drug complaints, so I don't answer, Sanchara Jabulicha. 3,014 a jalo to 126. Had a bullet chase to sit in a concert dealer, yard a look talk. Sasatsi Barakad, what wasn't Satsira car, had to the sit and concert dealer. 299 criminal charges, 2025, 2026. 352 charges, all the other Panakia. Mr. Speaker, a bullish is a way all left north and you had the law. That I am sitting on a sayons in a natal kilo. A inlet that illa. Good addiction treatment gaps can on there that I can't a keep on that alone. Could do that Naliali do your kidney la say to it as it's any dealt is it. Do what a town hall yet did all knock in other that job. Had added a mercy listeners into your left north say is it and say to all the say no standing committee say oversight next year on the looked at on the zone as soon as Sibik Egalataha. Could do that the Zananik Ayana Desi rampets at their on the action at there sick a latare. Keneson Patia on to that Utaka on the say. Do that all the sit and it's in your on. Had I want Hatayel came on the look to that justice of the sit and not in a son. Go to that motion to that but a thirsty heart. Go to the government say it in it and not in there on an Ethanalia and a law. Had a letter, had added a motion say I had also tell there, but it's interesting. Hala. And you would like. Mercy, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, had added a say on last kilo to the motion gone. Had added a say you city say Yakinai Baelia until that unazonitan say. Had a motion in it in. Had added at a bullish public meeting 9 key sayers in Yakinilia arranged lake. hat atwit ayuhan ninilyasi hat ake begrilian a lo to drug trade hill jat another police chat. At atwit at the netayas kiria kinin leo nol alat elo hat ajain sinsilia atwit alas action egalatano the rest with interest there to crime reduction hat lia hat ajal nanakaya. Merci.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think we already know that the Territories is facing a huge drug addictions problem. It doesn't matter which community you're from. And I've heard stories in the communities that I represent. I've seen things. So I'm totally convinced that we have a huge problem and it's a crisis. So anything that is going to reflect towards minimizing and addressing that problem, I'm in total support. I would rather advocate and save one life. And if I did, I'm certainly moving in the right direction, whether it's traditional on-land healing. I've never seen executions in my home birth community. I see it. There's prostitution. I've never seen that before. Handguns. It's just beyond a crisis, and we need every ounce of reflection and support from this government to address that. And other evidence, Mr. Speaker. You go catch an airplane, you're encountering canine services. Again, I've never seen that. And I would rather make every ounce of effort to address that problem because I cannot tolerate losing another life or attending another funeral because of the crisis. If I can make a difference, I'm all for it. So keeping it short, we got a problem and we need all hands on deck, and I'll be supporting this motion, Mussy.
Member from the Sahtu. To the motion, member from Wolfley.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. The establishment of a comprehensive territorial crime reduction strategy, I think it's a good strategy. Yes, there's a lot of issues. There's a lot of stuff that's mentioned in here that the Indigenous government are working on, are trying to deal with the drug trades involving criminal activities in small communities. Even a lot of our, we never really had issues before until the drugs came to small communities. And when you look at it, in our justice system, it is overpopulated it's overpopulated with young Indigenous men in there. And we have most children in care. The Indigenous children are in care. This is really alarming for us. And I know that even just recently, we met with the Department of Justice with our local leaders addressing a lot of these issues. So, before then, it was not an issue, like I said. And the most vulnerable one that I see with criminal activities and drug trades are communities with no policing. I have 2 communities. There's a lot of issues there. They don't have a RCMP detachment there. And this is what the community really want to fight, to fight against these criminal activities involving drug trades. And there's a lot of that in the small community. So with this in mind, I do appreciate my colleague bringing this forward, and it's really greatly needed in small communities. We've seen where a house that cannot sit vacant for a long time. There's always A lot of break and enter that's happening in small communities. And a lot of children are in care, like I said. And there's a lot of prostituting. And all these things we cannot dismiss. It's a serious issue, serious concerns for our community members. And some of these are young girls, young boys. And this is going to have an impact in the long term. It's going to have a traumatic effect on their lives going into their adulthood. We need to stop it. We need to deal with it. We need to do something about it. With that in mind, I will support this motion. Thank you.
Member from Mophie. To the motion, member from Mackenzie Delta.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Anything to do with fighting crime or fighting against the drug trade, saving lives of our smaller communities and our regional centers and our capital. I would be, I'm in favor of making healthier communities, and I think this addresses some of these, or not most of all, the hurt that we're going through within our communities. I've addressed this in my member statement with how it's affecting our whole community. If one person comes into our community and starts to sell drugs to our community members, get our younger population involved as runners, and it hurts everybody. The money doesn't stay in our community. I don't know where the money comes from, but there's all sorts of crime being committed, break and enters and theft. So anything that deals with fighting crime or fighting against the drug trade, then I'm in favor of it, and I will be supporting this motion. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
To the motion, member from Frame Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Lots has been said about this motion. I'm going to keep my comments brief. Mr. Speaker, I think residents would appreciate and benefit from the government summarizing and assessing their crime reduction actions. It's certainly something that I do hear about from residents. Insofar as I'm interested in seeing that, I'll support the motion, though I do share some of the reservations shared by my colleagues. Mr. Speaker, I think the idea to have standing committee, particularly Standing Committee on Social Development, contribute to that analysis is a great idea, and I would definitely support that. I think if we're concerned about crime in the territory, digging into the analysis of what's going on, understanding the issues better is certainly the best way to get us towards effective solutions to the problems. I would encourage the government to continue engaging with the RCMP and committee to do the same, investigate root causes, increase resources where needed to address those root causes, because that is the ultimate solution to any crime, is just figuring out where it's coming from, what's causing it. I've spoken to that in the media before. I've spoken to it on the floor, reducing poverty, increasing education rates and literacy rates. These are the things that help people come on the path to a productive life. Mr. Speaker, if the government determines a territorial strategy would be beneficial, I would just want it to ensure that it is evidence-based and based on the assessments that were previously recommended. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
From Frame Lake. To the motion, member from the Decho.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My region has, I've got reports indicating that I had a high crime rate and violent crime rate in the Decho region. So the establishment of a comprehensive territorial crime reduction strategy it's something that they're going to look at. They're going to examine things. To prevent, I always talk about prevention, and a lot of things that I bring up, health prevention, crime prevention stuff, initiatives and stuff. So I think, and listening to all my colleagues talk about how how this pertains to their areas, we need something comprehensive. We need something that's gonna move things along. And in my riding, we're dealing with a lot of drug people getting caught with drugs, either in the community or on the highway, and so there's we're really affected by drugs in our community and violent crime in my communities. So for that reason, I too will be supporting this motion. It's non-binding, so we'll see what happens to it. Thank you.
Thank you, member from the Date Show. To the motion. Member from Mophie.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I failed to mention on May 1st, community of Bichako went through a lockdown involving drug trades, and that drug trades had gone wrong involving guns. It was posted on social media. In the school, the children did not go home until 9 that evening. And some of the children, I'm sure, you know, like it was on the media too, where some of the children, there's a young boy that I know and said, is my mommy okay? And that's not right. It's okay. So there is, so I was just saying that, you know, one of the young boy who at an early age was exposed to some form of violence said to the grandpa, is my mommy okay? So these, so I'm really glad, grateful that to my two colleagues for bringing this forward. Thank you.
To the motion, member from Tabacha.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as this motion directs Cabinet, we will be abstaining from the vote. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
From Tabacha. To the motion. Question has been called. Does the mover wish to conclude or close debate?
As brief as I can, but I mean, I'm not going to come too hard on this. First off, I want to thank the colleagues. I'll start with the MLA for Range Lake for supporting the motion to get it on the floor, and certainly my community colleagues for their support on the initiative, and of course, the Yellowknife colleague. I think it's important to say that this motion wasn't drafted in isolation. I didn't go into a dark room by myself with a pen and crayons and come up with something. I actually used some of advice I got from the RCMP. I also used some advice that we got from our technical expertise in this building. I won't go too far into that detail, but so it was those types of people that provided me the inspiration and wording and how to point stuff out. I do want to highlight a couple of areas because the crime, the crime severity index has gone up 128% over 2021 to 2024. In just a few years, it spiked up 128%, Mr. Speaker. The stats are well publicized. I'm not going to waste the time of the House by going through them one by one, but I'd say that if folks think that this motion is out of touch or it's a bad motion, I think the fact is that isn't the idea getting these ideas on the floor and try to develop them and create some action. If there was one message in this whole thing that I want to be clear is it's about bringing people together. So many of our resources are by themselves, separated. And for those who are concerned about, well, the youth issue, I'm not blaming the youth. I'm saying they matter so much, I made sure there was an extra line to stress how much they matter. Not just to me, not just to some of my colleagues. I think most of my colleagues see. So that was part of the emphasis of that and why it came that way. For those who've said that they're going to vote against it, I respect the fact that, it's clear you put a lot of time and energy to pick it apart. Okay. If that's what you're here to offer. I am. Thank you. I'm saying it's okay. I'm saying it's okay. But these aren't vague ideas. These are very important details. They're not assumptions. Mr. Speaker, this motion calls for measurable outcomes, actions, etc. And I think it has to start with the government, that all the partners, all the pieces need to come together. And only the government can do that. And once they produce a plan, a draft plan hopefully, they will bring it to the Assembly, to the members, to the committee. Mr. Speaker, it's so important to remind folks that the 40-60 ratio was an observation made by the RCMP, and I appreciate that. But where do you think the 60% is getting the drugs from? The 40% that are bringing it here? Cabin radio I'm sorry, respectfully, ain't the end-all and be-all of facts. I can tell you that. So if people are using their position just from a radio or a news thing, I mean, it's important. They are facts, but they're not the only facts. I can tell you the member for Range Lake and I have spent hours talking to people well in advance of this meeting. Our staff who work with us together have talked to people. I know talking to my colleagues, they talk to people. And then we stay after these sessions to talk to people about the impacts of these issues on their lives. So this wasn't just we ran in there for 15 seconds for a Photoshop picture in the middle of it and then get out of there and say, oh, crime matters, we're fighting this. No, we've spent hours to this. So, Mr. Speaker, I wouldn't want people to get any impression that someone who may not like the motion doesn't think we didn't spend time thinking about it. We spent a lot of time getting to where we are today. And I agree, we could spend more time. If we were to do a comprehensive motion for all the, what we'll call it, warts and all situation, we would have spent days and weeks and months writing a motion. And guess what? That is the truth of doing nothing. It's better to get something on the table and work with it than to sit here and do nothing. I think maybe that was what even the chief superintendent said. It would better to be, swing and a miss than not to swing at all when he said trying to fight crime, and sometimes it doesn't work out. Well, that's the same with a motion. It's better to get something on the table and do something. Even if it doesn't work out, we need to push on this file. Mr. Speaker, I want to sum up by saying the constituents in my community, MLA, or the Mackenzie Delta community, the Talicho community, the Inuvik community, the Sahtu communities, the Decho communities, Yellowknife community. I mean, I go all around and I don't hear anybody say things are better. I will say, and I wasn't there to challenge him because I did not want to challenge the chief superintendent. Oh, well, he's titled, not named. I didn't want to challenge his role. He's right. It may not be here.
At the end, Hatale Honi Lalat Elo. Hatale to the crime rates in it, Sanchalo. Kutriness ill. Hatatu at Utana Nazonik and Atesio. Hatatu that Ujan Canada Ayase to the crime net sans Nilo. Couldn't it Ijan or Nanak Ayate Hajalo. Kutritlat Uranil in it another Ratlat Urapahela Galaitaha. Mr. Speaker, Kutri Sat ua to the Ayuat Sagatalo Tau Pesiniol cute at Une Zoni Tensit Sampanol Yautak Onlieha. And that to seek a galas Norris and at Uyerness in Zonanother, see hat Uraris and Illa, Mr. Speaker. Hat at a recorded voters, Kura. Duri Hukaha, Yellowknife Center, Range Lake, and Nuvik Boot Lake, Mofi, Frame Lake, Mackenzie Delta, Decho, Sahtu. Inland and then Sinushe. Great Slave, Yellowknife North, together in Sinushe, Thabacha, Yellowknife South, Cam Lake, Hare River North, Hare River South, and New Victorian Lakes, Nanakput.
Opposed, 2. Abstentions.
That motion has motions. First reading bills. WSCC Minister responsible at WSCC.
Notice that on Friday,
May 29, 2026, Bill 48 needs to that Workers' Compensation number 2 Siliat Kanatumbat Kakiha. Mercy Minister WCC. First reading bills. Second reading bills. Consideration of medium the whole consider Satu Chai Don Johnson Nagaha. At our committee of the whole to order. Glanothena. Budlik, Mr. Chair. Hat John Dalonte. Mercy. At that with a motion in truth. Any then say it in the bits and in less near on that. At that motion holiday. Had that announced that.
Member from the Satu.
Mr. Speaker, your committee has been considering Bill number 3, table documents 445-20 brackets 1, table document 453-20 brackets 1, and would like to report progress. And Mr. Speaker, I move that the report of the Committee of the Whole be concurred with. Masi.
Member from the Satu. Can I have a seconder, please? Member from the Date Show. All those in favor? All those opposed? All those abstaining? Motion carried. Reports on Committee of the Whole, reports on Committee of the Whole. Third reading the bill. Third reading the bill. Orders of the day, Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Standing Committee on Government Operations will meet at the Rise of House. Orders of the day for Thursday, May 28th, 2026, 1:30 p.m. Prayer reflection, minister statements, member statements, recognition of visitors in the gallery, notices of motion, motions, returns to oral questions, acknowledgements, oral questions, written questions, returns to written questions, replies to the Commissioner's address, petitions, reports of committees on the review of bills, reports of standing and special committees, tabling of documents, notices of motion for first reading of bills, second reading of bills, consideration in committee of the whole of bills and other matters, Bill 3-20(1), table document 445-20(1), table document 483-20(1), report of committee of the whole, third readings of bills, orders of the day. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. This House stands adjourned until Thursday, May 28, 2026 at 1:30 p.m.